The road to $10,000 runs through the Charlotte Motor Speedway. This is round 10 of 10 of the NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series presented by DoubleClutch here on LSRTV. We have one pace lap before we get going racing. I'm going to try to get through at least the top 15 here before we go. It's Tim Terry, Evan Pasocco, and a bunch of guys that run a bunch of fives on their cars. Brian Schoenberg and Mike Conti are here as well. Nick Morse is going to start on the pole in car number 9. To the outside, 27 of Cody Bias. Alex Warren going to start in position number 3. Sasha Wessler, Brandon Schmidt, Trey Edson, Brian Day, Brad Mayhar, Kenny Humpy starts in 9th, looking for his 5th consecutive victory in the series. And Ashley Miller complete your top 10. Evan Pasocco, before we get going, what do we expect here this evening from the Charlotte Motor Speedway?
Well, we're here to close things off, but the championship has already been decided. There's still some guys battling for the top 20, top 30, so that's something to keep an eye on here as the race goes on.
We'll get through the starting lineup, or we'll get through the drivers that are running in this final race of the season. We have a top 20 point battle as well when we get going. So we're going to get through the lineup. We'll get through everything here in the first few laps of this race. We have a top 20 battle to discuss. We have a top 30 battle to discuss. We have a 1/8 scale hood to give away, continuing the legend Dale Earnhardt hood from LSRTV. You're going to want to get on Twitter and follow at LSRTV this evening. And we're going to have a trivia question about halfway through, and we already apparently talked about a trivia question before we went on air, and everybody else heard it, so we're going to pick a different question. Pace car off. Nick Morse in the Mad Wire Media, number 9, getting ready to put the hammer down. Green flag is out, and we are underway at Charlotte for round number 10, the Pro Series finale for the 2013 season, and Morse is gone. The 9 car going to go into corner number 1 ahead of the 27 of Cody Bias. It's Alex Warren in 3rd now, and up to the outside, we got one car stuck out there behind Trey Edson, trying to get a number on that car. That would be Sasha Wessler in the 31. Evan, these guys jockeying for position here early.
Yeah, the 31 of Wessler took a look to the outside. It's going to be the 3 of Brandon Schmidt going to get around on the inside. That battle wrapping up inside of the top 5. Nick Morris up in the 1st position in the 9 machine, opening up a little bit of a gap or in front of these guys. Cody Bias in the 27 behind him in 2nd. Had a little bit of contention with the 82 of Alex Warren. Warren has to keep an eye on Trey Edson just behind them, closing into the bumper in 3 and 4.
And it's going to be single file for about your top 10 or so as Nick Moore starts to pull away from this battle. Battle for 3rd closing in, though, is the 82 of Alex Warren, and Trey Edson almost have a moment. 87 car going to sneak by for position number 3. Want to bring in Brian Schoenberg and Mike Conti here, boys. The 87 of Trey Edson, you got to know that he is on the bubble right now. He's fighting for his life. Brian, how hard does he push here in the opening laps of this 167 lap event?
Well, first off, thanks for having us, Tim, but he's definitely got to push it hard, but at the same time, he's got to be very smart as well. But Trey's a veteran racer. He's been around probably longer than me, so I guess that makes him really old, but he knows how to race. It just depends how good that car and that setup is, but you can tell he's already getting some pressure from Alex Warren and Brandon Schmidt behind him, so it's definitely not going to be an easy night, but if he can make it out of here, he might be okay, but we'll have to see how this one works. But right now, it's really tense.
Yeah, right now Trey's in a good position. He qualified up front. So far he's done everything he really needs to do to solidify his spot to try to qualify for next year's NASCAR iRacing Series World Championship. So he hasn't had the most consistent season, but we have seen him up front quite a bit this year. He just hasn't really been able to finish the races off as well as he starts them. So right now he finds himself in 3rd with a little bit of space in front of him, a couple car lengths behind him back to Schmidt. So he's in a good position right now. If he could stay here, this will be a good night for the 87 car.
Brandon Schmidt, one of the drivers that is locked into this series, or the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship for next season. 6 drivers come into this event locked in, the 3 of Brandon Schmidt being one of them at this point. Overland, Humpy, Harrison, Schmidt, Blackford, and Rich Doucette all locked in with the top 6 in points, gaining enough points on that 20th place bubble in order to secure their spot into the $10,000 NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship for the 2014 campaign. Everybody else either fighting to lock into the top 20, lock into 21st through 30th, which will get you a spot to vie for the final 3 spots at each of those NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship races. Or, well, you're going to have to try to get into the top 30 in order to get yourself into the Pro Series next season. 30th or 31st on back, Evan, they have to go through the Road to Pro, which is a 36-week marathon this season.
Yeah, definitely. That's not what those guys are going to be looking for sure. So not only if you get 21st through 30th in this series, is qualifying into each race going to be hard enough, but you don't want to have to go through another year of that and then try to take another shot at it. So you can capitalize on that here tonight at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Meanwhile, the lead position has been changed. The 27 machine of Cody Bias has gotten around the 9 of Nicholas Morse, and he brought Trey Edson with him in the 87 machine. So about a lap and a half ago, they made that pass down that front straightaway. So the 27 now up to the number 1 spot. Edson moving into second, and Nick Morse in the 9 machine is now back to P3.
I'll tell you what, guys, that 9 car of Nick Morse there started off really good, but it looks like he's starting to fade back a little bit, but we'll see what happens with him. But right now he's slotted back into third, and look at old Trey Edson there up in second. He's almost battling for the lead now. Look at him go.
Yeah, Trey knows that he has to go tonight. He's doing just that, moving up to second, and now we have this track. You can see, third and fourth right now are Lastro Motorsports cars, so they've got a good package tonight, but Cody Bias is leading right now, and he looks pretty strong as well.
And you look at the 87 of Trey Edson just behind Cody Bias for the lead position. He comes into this evening tied for 21st in points with Justin Bolton. Keep in mind, Bolton won back at Phoenix earlier in the season, but Bolton runs 21st right now. Trey Edson second, and Edson right now beating the drivers that he has to beat. Brandon Hoff is back, I believe, outside the top 10 right now. Get some other drivers that are looking to make that statement as well. Brian Day, Josh Berry, Brandon Bowie on the opposite side, on the north side of that bubble of the top 20. So you've got some stiff competition in this series, and there's going to be some drivers that are going to be celebrating after tonight, Evan. There's going to be some of those drivers that are going to be a little bit upset. Trey Edson trying to work the hard way, though, and trying to get around Cody Bias. He can get by and lead a lap. That's an extra bonus point. He's going to try to get every single point that he can here this evening. You better believe the 87's got something to race for.
And for sure, and if you get a long green flag run going, the best time to make those passes is going to be here right off of the restart and the initial start of the race, working the green flag lap number 13 on the scoring pylon at this point. You take a look at the 87 of Edson. He's sitting about 2-3 car lengths off the back bumper of Cody Bias in the 27 right now up front. He's been tracking him down. Remember, he went with him to get around Nick Morse in the 9 machine. Now, Edson qualified 6th for this race, so he's already made up 4 positions. But one other driver I want to keep an eye on tonight is that car sitting P8 on the back bumper of the 00 Brad Mahart is Chad Lawton. Lawton had some solid race cars earlier on in this series and just did not get the results, getting taken out in some late race incidents. So that 26 machine is going to be searching tonight for that well-deserved victory to close things out.
Yeah, he's had some bad luck, Chad has, and some of it self-inflicted, some of it not. He just moved up into 7th place there, so he's doing a good job right now. Someone I want to bring attention to is actually, you mentioned Brandon Hoff. He right now is back in 30th. He's got some work to do. We're talking about some of the bubble guys and everything else, but definitely got some work to do over there. He's starting to move up a little bit, but he definitely is going to want some cautions. He doesn't want this race to go caution-free, especially a lot of these guys right around in that vicinity, like Mitchell Hunt 23rd, Brandon Hawk 24th. He had a great run at New Hampshire last week, but if you're one of these guys back here, heck, even Chris Overland 29th, they're okay right now, but if they don't get a caution, within the next 40, 50 or so laps, it could hurt them later on in the going.
I mean, there's a lot of racing going right on the track right now, guys, so I wouldn't be surprised if somebody gets into each other eventually. Got the 56 and the 50 back here battling for 27th position. That's Scribner and Price, and as we saw last week when we were in the booth for a short while there, the 56 car, Billy Price, he's not afraid to mix it up. He got into it last week with Dylan Duval, so there are a couple cars apart right now. Duval's up in 11th, and Price is all the way back in 28th, so there's a lot of room between those two vehicles right now, but I can assure you if the 56 and the 42 get together again, that might be fun if they haven't settled their differences within the last week there.
And, I don't think there was any sanctions put down on that because Shannon Whitmore is the lead director of competition for this series, and obviously both cars are on the racetrack right now. Dylan Duval running a fair pace ahead of Billy Price right now in position number 11 compared to Billy Price's 28th. But if there was any sanctions, it wasn't enough to keep them from racing here this evening. One driver that is on the move is Kenny Humpy. Humpy started just inside the top 10 of position number 9. He has made the pass on Nick Morse to put himself in position number 4, and he is coming in a hurry. Speaking of Nick Morse, he's falling back the opposite direction. The 9 car is under fire from the 82 of Alex Warren and the 26 of Chad Lawton. 2 former Pro Series champions are now side by side, with the 26 car going to try to pick up position number 6 in the double clutch number 26. You can check them out, by the way, at winonmonday.com. They are the people that are powering our broadcast this season. Got some pretty cool stuff coming up in 2014. They do. Check out winonmonday.com for Double Clutch Engage. And I know they've been celebrating in the last week or so with Chris Overland winning that championship. Overland can really come out this evening and have a little bit of fun. And right now he's sitting back there in position number 23 in the middle of the Hornet's Nest right now. So he's having a little bit of fun trying to pass some cars. And speaking about passing, I believe the 9 car is about to be passed by the 26 of Chad Lawton, as Lawton is up on the back bumper of the number 9. Humpy just made the move on the 9, and now here comes the 26 to the inside of the Madwire Media number 9 as he looks to pick up position at number 5 as they come across the stripe.
Yeah, Chad Lawton in the 26 machine. I talked about him when he was sitting 8th on the back bumper. That double zero has since got around Brad Mahar. You just saw not too long ago made the pass on the 82 of Alex Warren. Those 3 guys were about nose to tail for a couple laps there around the racetrack, and then Lawton was able to make the pass. And now on the inside of the 9 machine of Nicholas Morse, who has gone from the number 1 position and now sliding back to what will be 6th. This time by the start-finish line. So the 26 machine of Chad Lawton is going to move up into position number 5 after starting this race in the 11th position. So that 26 car trying to move his way up to the front early in the going.
Tim, you mentioned Chris Oberlin a few minutes ago, running around 23rd, kind of doing this for fun, but that is one heck of a gaggle of cars just right in front of him. There's got to be easily about 10, 11, 12 cars just all in a line over here. Duval is starting to fall back a little bit here. It's getting passed by the 53 right now, Brendan Hawk. Duval actually started, where did he start, guys? Duval started around 13th, that's right. Now he's fallen back to 17th. So you're starting to see some comers and goers. And I'll tell you what, when you're going here, you're going. This track has some pretty crazy characteristics. On the car itself will feel completely different 10, 15 laps, 20 laps into a run than it will right when you start the race. Like, at this track, it's crazy because you can start the race crashing sideways, and within 20 laps you could be plowing, just killing the right front, as sure my buddy Michael Conti and I have done before here. But it's amazing how much the handling can change on these cars here. Duval is under pressure now. He's going to lose another sponsor, Robert Hall, now Charlie Foster as well.
We've seen a consistency with Duval this year, and whatever package he brings to the track. Always starts off really strong, but after a few laps, he just cannot seem to keep the tires on it. We're seeing that once again tonight. The last time I checked, he was just outside the top 10 and 11th. Now he's all the way back to 19th with a bunch of hungry people behind him here. So, not sure what's going on with him this year. He's had problems closing the deal a lot. In 2013 and into 2014 now, and he had the same problem last year. So I don't know, he's really gonna have to work on it for next year if he wants to compete more at the end of the races. But right now, all he's worried about is what's going to happen to my back bumper when these guys finally decide to run into me.
Trombley looked very hungry. I'm sorry.
And Brian, there was almost a moment back there with Rich Doucette in the 96. Goodness. I believe that was Justin Bolton there that he went underneath as the 42 was continuing to fall back and right into that battle. And the one thing I was going to mention about Duval, he's been switching teams, especially in this Pro Series. Started off with 1, ended up with Chad Lawton and Rich Doucette and that team over there, Kevin King, for a couple races. And now he's back over at Cody Bias racing with guys like Cody Bias, Alex Warren, Adam Gilliland. Brian, I want to ask you, as a driver, and you end up switching a team either midway through the season or bouncing back and forth as Duval throws a block on, I'm not sure who that was, Shane Miller in the number 71 car. How do you reset your mind, Brian, as a driver when you're trying to switch teams and working with different people and working with setups and those different personalities per se meshing?
Well, that's very difficult. obviously, the team I'm on, there really isn't any big personalities, because Michael Conti and Danny Hansen are kind of bland. Nah, just kidding. But definitely working with different personalities makes it tough, but at the same time, he's got to look at what's going on here, because I'm not trying to pick on him, but Cody Bias, whatever he's got, it seems to be working for him, and Alex Warren looks pretty good too, so he might be running a different type of setup from what they've been running. As far as we know, we really don't know, but meshing with the right people makes a big difference, and you got to have people that believe in you. Not saying that they don't, but it's definitely not easy.
We'll see if Laura can get an in-car with the 56 of Billy Price. As we go down the back straightaway, you're going to see the 48 of Brandon Chaburko, who's on the bubble for top 30 in this series, and Alex Scribner, who's also fighting to get into the series for next season. You looked 4 cars ahead. Yes, remember we said that Dylan Duval was running a vast majority ahead of the 56. He's not anymore. Duval is about 5 lengths or so ahead of the 56 car of Billy Price, and we saw what happened last week. And if the 42 continues to fall and the 56 can maybe navigate this battle in front of him, he's got actually a pretty good seat for this 48 and 50 battle in front of him side by side. The 51 of T-Loff is closing in. You might see a little bit of sparks flying again. I'm sure Shannon Whitmore and the iRacing officials have a half eye on what's about to brew here as the 56 looks underneath the number 50 for position, and that would be position number 27 right now. And looking at the standings, Billy Price is in 35th. He's not mathematically eliminated from this championship battle, or I should say the top 30 battle, Evan. He's not mathematically eliminated, but needless to say, 28th is not going to get it done.
No, he's definitely going to need to pick it up, and he's still got a lot of racing to go. Again, 167 laps on the board total here at a 1.5 mile track is a long time, and especially the way the race is currently shaping out with this decently length green flag run. Yeah, starting back there, you're going to need to start to make up that position, and if this thing goes green for a long time, it might make that even harder as opposed to trying to pick up a couple spots here and there under the caution. The 56 machine of Billy Price nearly just gone to the left rear of the 50 machine of Alex Scribner. They are still side by side going at it for 27th position now going into turn number 1. It is the 56 of Price on the inside lane trying to make that work. The 50 of Scribner is going to get a run off a 2 and be able to pull in front of the 56, and now the 51 machine is going to go to the inside, so Billy Price is going to go from on the attack to playing defense in 3 and 4.
Yeah, Price definitely is not right now, guys.
No, it definitely isn't. He's not really going forward either, as is his buddy Duval. I think Duval just lost another spot. He's back to 26 now. Chaburko got around him, and now he's falling into the clutches of Scribner and everybody else behind him. So pretty much everybody back here is just hoping for a caution, which doesn't seem very likely right now. We're 35 laps in and haven't seen one yet. Pit window, guys, here is around 50, 55 laps. So I'd say in the next 15 to 20 laps, we're going to start to see people peel off. So everybody right now is trying to figure out what adjustments they need, tune them in, so when they come down pit road, they can get them and see if they can't go a little bit faster on the second stint of the race.
One more point on the 50 of Alex Scribner. He sits 25th in the standings when you factor in that one drop race. If you're new to this NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series here on LSRTV, these drivers have a 10-race series. It's the 9 best races that factor in to your championship point total. Alex Scribner in the 50, who is underneath Dylan Duval right now for position, and that is back at position 26. He sits 25th. He can lose 16 points or so and fall back a little bit. That's where that 30th bubble is right now. Or he can gain a little bit and lock himself into the top 20. And you might be thinking, what's the difference between 20th and 30th? As Dylan Duval is right ahead of Billy Price, and he's going to throw a block on the 56 here. We might want to stick with this, 42 and 56 as they come across the line, 37 laps completed. Try to complete my point before anything happens here. Top 20 locked into the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship for the 17 races. Unless they get suspended or thrown into the series, they're locked into all 17 races. 21st through 30th, they're fighting for the final 3 spots in each grid, given that each race has 43 cars in there, so they're racing for those final 3 spots. If somebody in the top 40 falls out, then there'll be 4 spots, and so on and so forth. It's key to lock into that series at least to the top 30, because if you don't, 31st on back, you're running the Road to Pro Series, which is a 36-week season in 2014. So if you get 21st to 30th, you retain your pro license. If you're top 20, you take a NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship license, 56 underneath the 42. Landon Harrison is going to follow him through, and with no incident so far. And Evan, I know I was talking to crew chief Jordan Hightower on the 89 and 33 cars of Brian Blackford. He said that their cars are handling like the Space Jam actors or whatever when they lost their talent, i.e. they are driving like Sean Bradley right now. The 89 car is looking to find some talent as he stalks the 56.
Yeah, they've always had some interesting ways to describe how their race cars have been this season. Not the best for sure with the 89 of Harrison. He's sitting 29th right now behind Billy Price. We were keeping an eye on Price and Duval last week. I don't think that they really finished their business because their cars got so torn up they just couldn't get back to each other. So I think it's a good thing to keep a half eye on those guys. And the 42 of Duval just really has nothing at this stage in the race. I mean, qualified 13th and is just sliding back all the way now to 30th position. So, I mean, something obviously wrong with the 42 machine, just can't maintain speed. However, now the 89 has gotten around Billy Price, so Billy Price is now the next car in front of Duval, about 4 car lengths up there, so this might not be done just quite yet. Still early in the going here, 42 laps currently being completed on the board, but those guys being side by side, I'm not too comfortable with that at this point.
Yeah, but you guys, with Dylan Duval, for instance, right now, put yourself in his shoes. You're driving a car right now that's absolutely undrivable. I don't know what's wrong with it. It just doesn't look very good. You can take this basically one of two ways. Number one, you can try and short pit, which never seems to work. Or number two, you can stay out here as long as you possibly can and hope someone crashes coming onto pit road, and you can leapfrog ahead of a bunch of guys that already pitted before, you know, a potential caution would come out. So he's got one of two ways to play his cards here. Both of them are a little bit desperate, but we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens. But right now, about the only way I see we could get a caution is if someone makes a mistake entering pit road.
And let's kind of think ahead a little bit here, guys. Okay, so if we can stretch 55 laps on fuel here, that puts our last stop at around, around 100, lap 110. We got 167 laps in this race. That put you 2 laps short. So it's going to be really close on fuel if you can stretch it as far as you can. So, I mean, if I were Duval, I would short pit right now just because he's so far behind the leaders, so far off their pace. It's not really going to help him if he tries to stretch it. But you know, he won't be able to make it either. So it's really a catch-22 for the 42 right now. He can't really do anything that'll get him out of the situation if a caution doesn't fall. But the only hope he has right now is if he can stretch it further than everybody else and not be a couple laps short. I mean, that may get him out of the woods here. But I mean, bottom line is that 42 hasn't run very well at all tonight. He started up pretty decent in the pack, and now he's back to 31st. So the car really needs adjustments, and pit strategy or any of that really isn't going to fix how bad the car is at this point.
We'll give you a top 10 rundown right now. Cody Bias leads by about 0.7 of a second, and it's been about that way the last few laps. Chad Lawton is starting to get in there. He's in second. Brandon Schmidt, Kenny Humpy, and Trey Edson in position number 5. Alex Warren, Brad Mayhard, Nick Morse, Josh Berry, Brian Day. Your top 10 as we continue to work through here, getting close to the first round of pit stops. And I'm going to touch some wood right now, but we've been 197 laps caution-free in this series going back to New Hampshire last week where we ran 150 caution-free. Cody Bias really putting up something impressive right now, and at this point he really has to, Evan. When you look at Cody Bias, he sits 24th in the standings with that one drop factored in. If he has a good night and all the stars fall into line, he can lock himself into the top 20, not have to worry about qualifying next season for the races. But if something does happen and he ends up on the other side of the inch, he's either in the top 30 or he's outside the top 30 right now. But the way he's running, Cody Bias is at least trying to retain his pro license for the upcoming season in 2014.
Yeah, it's almost a risk versus reward up there, and I mean, he can run up front and sit P1 and lead 75% of the laps, but you mentioned that if the stars don't align, he's not going to be able to get up there to that top 20, so he's doing what he needs to do, and that is right around as the number 1 car on the racetrack. He's opened up the gap over the second place car of Lawton in the 26 to now 0.8 of a second at this point as he takes lap 50 at the stripe. So I'm sure he's got somebody letting him know where those guys are on the racetrack, and when he gets back in traffic as this race progresses, if he's unable to stay up P1, maybe with a caution, loses a spot or two on the pit lane, or gets shuffled back a couple rows depending on how strategy happens, that's really when he has to be careful, because he really can't throw caution to the wind, because if he wrecks out and finishes outside the top 30 and all those guys end up starting to go up to the front of the pack, then he could find himself outside of the top 30 and again have trouble even getting an opportunity to qualify into these upcoming World Championship races.
Yeah, that's a good point, and honestly, he's doing a great job. He's doing everything he can possibly do right now to maximize the points, maximize his opportunity. Another thing I'm looking at too is not only his lead to second place, Chad Lawton, but also I'm looking at Kenny Humpy. I mean, you can't just ignore him completely, but they've been really stable lap times compared to himself, Humpy, and basically second and third as well. So he's doing a great job right now. He's doing everything you possibly could. Brandon Schmidt has also been pretty close to Chad Lawton here for second, but we're going to be starting green flag pit stops pretty soon here.
Right now, if you look at the lap times of the top 5, you get an 80 for Bias, a 28.79 for Lawton, 7.9 with an 8 for Schmidt, 7.70 for Humpy. So they're all within a half a tenth here. Humpy just busted off a 73. So that 58 car is really strong. He may just be laying in the weeds right now. I know announcers say that a lot, and we, myself and Brian, go back and watch the races, and they say that about us, and we're like, no, we were just that slow, we couldn't catch up to them. But Humpy's a smart guy, and he's been really fast the last couple weeks, so I wouldn't be surprised if he just hangs in there right now, finds a safe spot, and it was really close. That wasn't too safe, but we have green flag pit stops going on right now.
And that's the 27 of Cody Bias coming onto pit road. I believe Brad Mayhar also going to come onto pit road behind him in 00. So your leader comes on. It lets Chad Lawton lead a lap and get that extra bonus point. That's always key to determining where you finish in the standings at the end of the season. Top 3 get a little bit of iRacing credit bonus to the kitty at the end of the campaign. The 27 gonna stop in his box. The Cody Bias Racing Chevrolet SS takes 2 tires on the right hand side. Gonna take 4 tires here, pack it full of fuel, and get ready to leave pit road as Chad Lawton in the number 26 scored as your leader, and he is working his way down the back straightaway. Expecting to be in momentarily. Kenny Humpy, Trey Edson, Alex Warren, and Nick Morse, your top 5. I believe the 26 car may be peeling off this time by. He's going to woe it down. The double clutch, number 26, hits pit road right here, and that will hand the lead over to Kenny Humpy. Humpy stays out in the racetrack, and he leads a lap.
We're hearing trouble for Nick Morse in the 9. He's around on the pit lane entry, locked it up, got into the inside wall, bent in that nose a little bit, smacked the rear end, got it going straight. Everybody else was able to avoid it, but tough break for our pole sitter, having trouble down the pit lane. Take a look at the replay now.
It appears he just got in there a little bit too hard and spun around.
Really easy to do here. To get the cars to turn on entry, we run really low brake bias, so a lot of brake to the rear, and you get on the brakes really hard, and it'll want to kick the rear end of the car out. So watching from one of the pit lane cameras, and a lot of guys coming in hot on entry. We're getting a little bit squirrely, and unfortunately for Nick, he got a little bit squirrelier than the rest and nosed into the wall. But he's going to continue on. He'll peel off right now, and Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't mean to be too hard on him there. It actually is a pretty hard pit road to get onto, especially after you've done a full fuel run there and everything. It's kind of hard to slow down and make that all the time. But I also wanted to mention that Brian Day had to get out of the race there a couple laps ago due to electrical issues, and this was a big race for him, so that was a really tough break for Brian Day as well.
And looking at this right now, Kenny Humpy and Trey Edson were among the drivers that went to the completion of 56 to the start of 57. I know Mike had said earlier that if you pit 55 and 110, you're going to be a couple laps short, and Humpy right now is on the apron, and I'm not sure why Humpy is on the apron right now. Could he have possibly had a speeding penalty in the 58 car? Shane Miller was also black flagged. Maybe Humpy exited pit road before he should have. I'm not sure what the blend line is for this evening, but that's tough for Humpy, because that's likely going to be a black flag if he did end up merging and the officials do catch that. But I was about to say Kenny Humpy and Trey Edson, and there it is. He's black flagged, so he'll have to come down and serve a penalty. Whether that's I don't know if what it's going to be, a stop and go or a 20-second penalty, Evan. But the 58 will have to come down pit road. Shane Miller was popped for the same thing, and here comes the 58 onto pit road. And I was about to say that they went 57 laps. That could have been the extra 2 laps that they needed to get to the finish on fuel to make it a 2-stop race without having to conserve a whole lot. But that might be out the window right now for Kenny Humpy in the 58.
Yeah, it's a tough deal for him. The iRacing officials giving him the penalty, and he's going to lose a lap here as he sits in his pit stall and serves that penalty, and he's got to come back out on the racetrack at his number 58 machine, now down a lap and outside of the top 30. A tough break by him after qualifying inside of the top 10 and was slowly picking away at some spots up there around the top 5, trying to inch his way up there, looking for yet another win here. And unfortunate circumstances coming up a little bit too early, so he's back out on the racetrack now. He blends on the back straightaway, so not going to get a black flag this time, but an unfortunate mistake, and maybe just trying to get those couple extra tenths, and you forget what you cannot do, and just went up there in the corner, realized it, brought it back down, but the iRacing officials did catch that, and nonetheless 58 black flagged, and that's where he finds himself right now in 34th position.
That's a tough break for him, but I'll tell you what, the guys in about the top 5 are saying, wow, what a break we got, because that has been one tough car, you guys, throughout the whole season, but especially the last 4 or 5 races in a row. It's been crazy, so it's a good break for everyone else and a tough break for Kenny.
Yeah, I mean, who's not to say that we get a opportune caution for Kenny here, and he gets a wave around or whatever, gets back in the lead lap, catches another quick caution, gets in the same sequence, he can easily come up through the field again. We've seen bigger feats from him this year. So 58 car is certainly down right now, but he's not out. But somebody that's definitely doing really well right now is Cody Bias. We've talked about him a little bit already. He's got a second lead over Brandon Schmidt, running very comparable lap times from the 27 to the 3, pretty much all the way through the top 10. They're within a tenth of a second of each other. So Bias right now, he pitted a little bit earlier, so he's going to have to stretch it a little bit more this run, but he's in a very good position right now. It's a good car, and he's stretching his lead out a little bit every lap.
And, looking down at all these penalties, it's going to hurt the 71 the most because Shane Miller got popped for the same thing, and he's running 35th. Coming into this evening's race, when you factor in the 1 drop, he sits 31st in the point standings, 5 points behind Brandon Chaburko. But here's the other thing. There's no Patrick Baldwin here tonight. There's no John Adams here tonight. Those 2 drivers, 28th and 29th, when it comes to the point standings. So it opens the door for Shane Miller, Tom Moustakas, who comes into this race 6 points behind, albeit he has a drop. Andrew Fayash, the third, comes in back there as well. He's got a 9-point drop, and he sits 9 points behind when you factor in that 1 drop. And Andrew Fayash, the third, sits 30th right now. And Brian, I want to bring you in here again because you've been involved in the series as long as Andrew Fayash, or longer than Andrew Fayash has. He's been on the bubble, it seems like, virtually every time that we talk about this series, whether it's the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship or this NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series. The 157, always on the bubble. He always seems to pull through. Does he have enough tonight to lock himself into at least the 2014 Pro Series to have a shot at that NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship?
Boy, I'll tell you what, Tim, it's going to be hard, but like you were saying before, he always seems to find a way to do it, and I don't know how he does, because it seems like almost every time he races in these series, he's always racing, for survival, but he does do it every time, so I wouldn't bet against him, for sure, but it's just incredible to see him kind of just find a way to make it through every time. It's like fate and never giving up always seems to pay off for him, so will it pay off again tonight? We'll see. I'm a little bit of a fan of his, so I hope it does. One thing I also want to bring up real quick too, guys, we mentioned Nick Morris had that problem entering pit road. He's only 14th. He might be 15th or 16th here, though, in a second, but it didn't cost him as much time as it first appeared like it would have, when he's spinning around there completely. So he didn't really lose too much. He lost 7-8 spots, somewhere around there, but definitely looked like for sure he was going to lose a lot more than that.
Want to remind you guys as well to get your Twitter ready. Coming up in about, let's say about 15 laps or so, or 20 laps or so, we are going to give away a 1/8 scale hood, continuing the legend at Dale Earnhardt, the collector's item from LSRTV, and we want to give that away to a driver who might know a little bit of Brian Schoenberg trivia. Yes, we're putting Brian Schoenberg on the spot. There hasn't been a time, Brian, that you don't like to be on the spot, right?
No, never. I always enjoy being under the spotlight.
Okay, so we're going to give a little bit of Brian Schoenberg trivia in approximately 10 to 15 laps or so. So be sure you're following at LSRTV. That's the handle you're going to have to follow in order to get the prize here this evening. That's at LSRTV. We will have a Brian Schoenberg trivia question coming up in approximately 10 to 15 laps or so. We'll give you a top 10 rundown at this point, as well as Cody Bias works to complete lap 71 this next time by the stripe. It's the 27 of Cody Bias leading, Brandon Schmidt in second, Chad Lawton third, Trey Edson in fourth, Brad Mayhar fifth. It's Alex Warren in sixth, Josh Berry doing what he has to do to lock himself into the top 20 in seventh, Brandon Hawk in position number 8. Ninth is Ashley Miller, and the number 10 is Rich Doucette, or the 96 is Rich Doucette running in position number 10. And speaking about giveaways, we'll throw in a shameless plug here for Tim's Corner as well. If you go over to facebook.com/Tim's Corner, who sponsors the number 96 at Rich Doucette, giving away a $25 iRacing gift card when the Facebook page hits 1,500 likes, whether it's tonight, whether it's next week, whether it's in 2 weeks, month, whenever, whether we hit 1,500 or not, we're going to give something away, the iRacing gift card, $25, when we hit 1,500 likes. So if you are on Facebook, go to facebook.com/Tim's Corner, like the page, and when they get to 1,500 likes, Evan, we're going to give a $25 iRacing gift card away, and the Super Late model comes out next week, so you're going to want to get that. You can use that $25 towards that.
And for sure, and I took a look on that page, Tim, before we started the broadcast, and somehow I didn't like it yet, so I like that, and the number is also close. Make sure you guys check that out here as the race continues under this green flag condition. Cody Bias up in P1 right now in the 27 machine. He's opened up now what is a 1.7 second gap over Schmidt. That's Brandon Schmidt in the number 3 machine. He's in second, and it's a little bit of a gap back to Chad Lawton, who was battling for that second position before the green flag pit stop started to cycle through. Lawton in the 26 machine is in third with Trey Edson on his back bumper in the 87.
Yeah, and Brad Mahar is hanging in there in 5th position right now as well, but you know, the person I keep thinking about right now is Cody Bias, just because he's driving his heart out, and we've already made it well aware that he was pretty much the first person on pit road for the most part during that green flag cycle. Right now, he's got to be getting a little bit nervous because this race is really, really, really strung out. We're not going to get a caution, most likely, unless we have, you know, something crazy happening during green flag pit stops or something right about now. But it's definitely got to be a little bit concerning because he's doing everything right behind the wheel right now, but fuel mileage could be a problem, so he's definitely scratching his head, and he's probably a little bit nervous right now, as I would be too if I were in his spot, because I'm really not convinced that we're going to see a caution that's going to, you know, aid everyone and not make this a fuel mileage race. So right now it's a little bit tense, even though he's got almost a 2-second lead right now. He's thinking, man, how's this going to play out?
It's really a waiting game for him right now. There's not much he can do. He's made his first pit stop. He's made it clear what his strategy is going to be. He wants to have maximum speed at all times. He wants to be out, you know, out front as much as he can. Have the clean air in the nose. You know, make the car handle as, you know, optimally as possible here. And he's doing a great job. You know, his lap times again. They kind of go back and forth between himself and Schmidt. You know, one lap the 27 will be faster. The next lap, you know, Schmidt will outrun him a little bit. But the guy that's really coming, well, actually there's two of them. You've got third and fourth. Chad Lawton and Trey Edson are quicker than the top two. I think they might have pitted a little bit later than the top two, so their tires are just a little bit fresher, but it does make a difference. So if those guys keep closing in like they are, by the time, you know, the top two get to the next pit window, the 26 and the 87 are going to be in their tire track, so they have to watch out for that as well.
Another person, Michael, that has really been moving up through the field too, Keep in mind, this race has been green the whole way through. Brandon Hawk started 24th, and he is all the way up to the 8th position right now. His lap times and everything look really good, but, you know, he had a great finish at New Hampshire, and he's just continuing that good run here. He had to actually come, I believe, from a mid-pack starting spot at New Hampshire as well, but he has really come up through this field, and that's really impressive, especially on a mile-and-a-half track like this. You know, once it gets strung out, and once, you know, it goes green forever, there's really not a whole lot you can do except drive the car, and that's why I'm thinking this is really impressive that he's come that far up through the field with really no aid of anything.
And I'm looking back here as well. Another driver that's coming up through the field is the number 51 car, and that's Tyler Laughlin. And he started 36th this evening. The 51 car is up to position 19 and chasing down Sasha Wessler in the 31. And those are two drivers right now outside the top 30. We mentioned a couple of drivers within the top 30 not here this evening. T-Loff and that number 51 may just have enough to do what he has to do this evening to get himself in the big dance for the 2014 Pro Series and maybe have an opportunity to lock himself into a couple races in that NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. And you look at guys like the 157 of Andrew Fayash III, who's in front of him in the standings. He sits back there in 30th. If the 51 can get a couple more positions, he might have that driver beat. The 10 of Tom Mustakas, the 71 of Shane Miller, both behind the 51 right now. It might be a night for that Cody Bias Racing driver to celebrate if he can continue up what he's doing and maybe gain a few more spots, because you look right ahead of the 51 right now, he's got Sasha Wessler about 2 car lengths in front of him. About 2 car lengths in front of the 31 is your pole sitter, the 9 of Nick Morse, and your Pro Series champion to be, Chris Overland, running about 2 car lengths in front of them, and then about 2 car lengths up from them is Robert Hall in the number 30. So within about a second or so, you see 15th through 19th, and right now side by side as Sasha Wessler makes the move on Nick Morse, and now the 51 of T-Loff works underneath for position number 18. So move the 51 and move the 31 up a position almost as the 51 had a moment with the 9 of Nick Morse. He got a little sideways going into corner number 1 and nearly collected the 9. They get it back together again, and Evan, I could be wrong, but I think these drivers had a run-in already in this season.
Oh, they're looking like it. They're going at it side by side. The 9 machine on the top does not want to give up. That's Nick Morse, the pole sitter, on the outside lane. The 51, though, is going to have that position going into 1, and there you go. He's going to get it as the 9 just can't keep up in corner exit. So Nick Morse is going to drop down to the bottom as the 51 of Tyler Laughlin passes him now and down the back straightaway. The 9's now about a car length off of the back bumper of that 51. Stalking, trying to close in, is going to get right up to that back bumper out of turn number 4.
I'll tell you what, Nick Morse is not someone you want to mess with because he will bite back, but so far nothing's really happened yet with these guys as far as a retaliation there. He's almost right there, but one thing I wanted to mention too, I hate to take the focus off of this, but Cody Bias has almost given up about half of his lead trying to save gas here. He's been shutting the car off here down the straightaways and, you know, well, not on the straightaways, but going into the corners right now. So he's definitely thinking about fuel right now. And right as I was saying this, I just saw the 9 give the 51 a shot in that middle of 3 and 4 there. But looks like there's a little bit of separation between the two right now.
Yeah, the Bias and Schmidt definitely have slowed down a lot to try to save fuel. I mean, I think they need to save about 2 or 3 laps in total. So that's going to be quite a few laps of green trying to run at a slower pace, maybe a half a second off. That's about where they are right now. Last lap for Cody was a 29 flat. They were running, 7s and 8s, so maybe 2-3 tenths right now for the 27, which is telling me he's not, in dire need to save fuel at this point, but he's being proactive and knows that if this thing does go green, he's going to have to save at some point, so why not do it while his lead is pretty large? But it's not going to be large for very long because Lawton and Edson are coming with a full head of steam. They're not saving at all. So now we're 3/4 of a second back the 26 of Lawton from the 27. So, everybody's starting to close in now.
And Tyler Laughlin going to give a lot of room to the number 9 and Nick Morse as they work underneath, keeping that eye on that battle for 18th, 19th, and now 20th. Here comes Kwame Ajay as the 51 right up on the bumper of the number 9 going down into corner number 3. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Evan, I think it was Richmond that these two drivers got into it on the first caution flag of the evening. And then Nick Morse went on to get into a couple of more cautions. Enough cautions that got him enough incident points to get him suspended for 2 races. This is the first race he's been back since Richmond, and that would make sense because he and the 51 are running fairly close together, and I think they're playing some mind games with each other right now. We'll see if Teloff has enough. Teloff may have overdrove the car a little bit, trying to keep ahead of the number 9 because he's got the 43 sniffing up his rear end right now as he tries to close back in on the Madwire median number 9 as they battle for position 18, 19, and 20. And let's give a little credit where it's due to Kwame Ajay. He's had I don't want to say a fairly quiet season, but Kwame is 16th in the point standings. He's more than likely, unless something catastrophic happens this evening, is going to lock himself into the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. And it's just keeping out of trouble, keeping that car in one piece, and being there at the finish of these races. So hats off to the number 43 car. And as we mentioned, unless something catastrophic happens here, he got right up on the 51 there. He's likely going to be in the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship, as I think we're going to have a battle for the lead here, Evan. The 26 is right up on the 27 car.
And Chad Lawton is caught up to your race leader, Cody Bias, in the 27 machine. Again, remember, Bias not too long ago had a 3-second lead over Lawton, who was sitting in the 3rd spot, and possibly some fuel saving going on for the 27 machine has allowed Lawton to close back in. He got to within about 0.8 of a second about 5 laps ago, and right now, or last time around, it was 0.24 seconds with the scoring updates. This time it's going to be 0.36. So maybe Bias has decided that that 26 is getting a little too close for comfort in that rear view mirror and is going to start to pick up the pace a little bit up front. So Lawton is going to try to track down that 27 machine, but at this point still about 3 or 4 tenths of a second between them now, as the 27 of Bias looks like he's starting to pick that throttle back up and open up a little bit more of a distance now for P1.
Yeah, Bias is running a really smart race, you guys. He's just doing what he needs to do to keep the lead, and that's about it. He's saving as much fuel as he can, but as you said, once the 26 of Lawton gets right up to him, he just starts to pick it up a little bit and stretch that lead out a little bit. So Bias is in a good spot right now, but man, wouldn't a caution change this whole thing?
Well, you know, it would change everything right now, and it would actually change something a little bit differently than what we projected before. Kenny Humpy's been the first car lap down for the last 30 laps, or at least since he made his mistake when he merged too early and got the pass through. With Moustakas going down a lap, Humpy's out of the lucky dog position. So for Humpy, his chances of making up lost ground are dwindling as the laps are going away quickly, and now he's not in the lucky dog position. So Humpy came into tonight. He won 5 in a row. We talked to him last week after the race. He was happy to get 4 in a row. He's really happy to get 1. So unfortunately for him, I think 4 in a row is going to be all that he can get in this 2013-2014 pro season, as I don't see it being possible for him to get back up to the front.
We left you hanging on for a little while, and while these battles on the racetrack have subsided for the moment, Billy Price and Dylan Duval are running nose to tail right now, but there's about a half second in between them. Your leaders are about a half second in between them, and Nick Morris and Tyler Laughlin have about, they have the 43 car now in between them. So it's an opportunity now to give away that 1/8 scale hood, continuing the legend Dale Earnhardt from LSRTV. We want you, it's a trivia question, it's about Brian Schoenberg, it's a 2-part question. We want you at LSRTV to tell us what Brian Schoenberg's best finish in the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship has been. We'll give you a hint. He has yet to visit Victory Lane.
Oh, come on!
We will tell them that in NASCAR there's no place like home. We want to know what track and where his best finish is. That's the best hint I can give you without giving it away. So we want you to know. We want you to tweet at LSRTV with the best finishing position of Brian Schoenberg in a NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship event, and at what track. We're not going to tell you what year. Because you can go look at it, even though I kind of gave you as much as I could at this point. But if you can tweet at LSRTV, the first person to do so will win that hood. So good luck. and I'm sure there's people already on the tweeter and the Twitters and all them other things looking for the winner. And speaking about the winner, Chad Lawton's looking for a win here as he's up the back bumper of the number 27 of Bias. It's about 2 car lengths now, Evan, between your top 2.
I told you that 26 machine, he's going to be wanting to look for that, and the 27 of Ice is going to wave him on by. So Chad Lawton is going to go to P1 now, down the back straightaway, as Cody Bias just decided that it's not worth trying to hang on to at this point. So Chad Lawton to P1 in the 26, and I touched on earlier that he has had a solid race car for the majority of this Pro Series, and in those opening 3-4 races was inside the top 5, top 10 coming down to the end, and we saw those string of yellows that seemed to be a reoccurring thing there in those opening races coming down to the checkered, and he got caught up in a bunch of those, and maybe again tonight trying to redeem something, looking for that win that he feels might have been robbed from him earlier in the season, and he's on track to do it right now. Lap 102 on the board, coming around to take 103. This race just flying on by, but he's now up to P1 with a 7/10 second of a lead over Cody Bias. Actually now going to update 1.2 seconds ahead of P2.
Yeah, Bias must be really concerned about gas because, I mean, as you just mentioned, he gave up a half a second of racetrack on that last lap to saving gas, so it's got to be a real big concern for him, obviously. Another person I want to bring up, by the way, you guys having a pretty solid run right now, is Rob Ackley. He is running in the 10th position right now. It's a pretty good run for that little driver right now. He started 16th, and he's having a pretty just quiet, solid day.
He definitely is, and being solid tonight is exactly what he needs. He doesn't need to do anything fancy. He doesn't need to go out there and set the world on fire. Just needs to have a solid night and get into next season and then really start to, light the world up then.
We did have one tweet, guys, at least so far, on the trivia question, but the tweeter or the Twitter user did not give us the full answer to the question. We want where Brian finished and what racetrack it was at. We need the finishing position and the racetrack. So
it might be surprising.
It might be surprising. I can tell you that the person that did get half of the answer on their tweet got half of it right. It's just a matter of getting the other half of it on there too. So be sure to go over and check that out, and we'll let you know probably around lap 125 or 130 or so if we have a winner. Let's put it that way. We'll leave it about 125 or 130. I want to touch on something Evan said a little bit earlier. Chad Lawton in these first few races of this season, you had to believe at the start of this NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series that the double clutch number 26 was probably going to be your favorite, but he had some issues throughout those races, whether it was Rex, whether it was something else, taking him out of contention for the win. He should have been the point leader if these races were a little bit shorter than they were in the first 3 or 4 races. Same deal with Kenny Humpy. Kenny Humpy had some issues in the first few races of the season, ended up being out of both 2 races by lap 2. It's just racing. There's situations that come up, and then you have Chris Overland, who has been consistent all season long, and he ends up coming away with the championship. There was no mathematical way that Kenny Humpy in second place in points could catch the number 47 coming in to this evening's race. Chris Overland right now running in position number 17, and I could be wrong, but I believe pit stops are about to begin as Ashley Miller is one of the drivers down on pit road at this point to start what should be the final round of green flag pit stops. And Mike Conti crunched those numbers a little bit earlier. 110 will leave you saving a little bit of fuel for the final stint. Trey Edson went a little bit farther on that first stop, so he should be able to go a little bit farther with a little bit of ease, as will Kenny Humpy in the 58 car. We'll have to wait and see when the 26 decides to come down onto pit road. He's coming up on Billy Price to put Billy Price 1 lap down in position number 32 on the racetrack before the pit stops do happen. But this is where the numbers begin to get crunched, and this is where all those nerves begin to come up a little bit in these cars, Evan.
Yeah, for sure, because, I mean, you're coming into tonight's race and you haven't had a caution flag yet, so you really haven't had a moment to take a breather as Chad Lawton, race leader, goes around the 56 machine. That is the lap machine. So, I mean, you're coming down to it now, and this race has really flown on by. Again, race leader Lawton currently working lap 111 of 167 laps. So this thing's flown on by, that by the time they're coming down to this pit stop, they're realizing that this thing's coming down to the end. And we talked about at the top of the show about all the different scenarios on who's going to be where and where you're going to finish. And from there on, as race leader Chad Lawton hits the pit lane, this is the moment that you realize this thing's going to come down to it. Now you got to nail this stop and work with what you got here to the checkered flag.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, too. It's also really easy to overdo it here, so it's almost like taking a conservative approach, entering pit road and all that. It might be a little bit better than risking speeding down pit road or anything like that.
Yeah, it looks like Lawton just peeled off, so that's lap 112, guys, so he can probably make it, at 55 laps and put him right to that 167 mark, so he's good. Trey Edson, Alex Warren, Josh Berry, all of those guys are definitely going to be good on fuel. A little bit concerned about everybody that pitted before that 112 mark right there. They're going to have to save or hope for caution, which we haven't seen yet, or in the last race and 3/4 for that matter, so that's not looking very good for them. But Lawton right now looks like the favorite. With the speed coupled with the strategy, he's definitely got this race under his control at this point.
So this is where everything comes down to a Trey Edson now onto pit road to complete lap 113. Chris Overland is scored in second, and I believe he will be coming onto pit road as well, but he is a little piece behind Trey Edson in the number 87. The 47 will get onto pit road, and it looks clean for the 47 as the Sim Chassis 87 comes down onto pit road. This could make or break the 87 car when it comes to not only getting a win here this evening, but maybe locking himself into the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. It's go or go home on this one as the 87 drops to left side. He is down and away. Looks like a quick stop. As long as he got all the fuel in the car, Evan, he should be good to go on this run to the finish of this event.
And definitely as the green flag pit stops continue to cycle through, somebody that we didn't really mention all race long is the point champion, 47 machine of Chris Overland, completing his final stop. He's coming out of the pit lane right now and out onto the racetrack. He's currently being shown P5 as he nearly lost it actually on the apron in 1 and 2. I saw a little bit of smoke come out of the right rear. That thing he's going to blend up. He's been measly running around mid-pack, and you touched on that earlier, that he was right back there where all those battles were going on, and he's just kind of been quiet, just kind of riding around, taking this thing in strides, obviously locking up that championship by getting that top 6 finish that he needed last week in order to do so. So right now being shown 22nd position, so Chris Overland in the 47 machine is just out for a Tuesday night cruise in that 47.
Speaking of cruises, one person that's not really having a cruise right now is Kenny Humpy. He just got a speeding penalty, guys. Entering pit road there is a little bit too hot, so when it rains, it definitely pours.
Yeah, it just has not been his night. He had a really fast car early, had a decent qualifying effort, was moving toward the front when he made his first boo-boo, and that really put him back, and now he just made his second mistake, and that really seals off the deal here. He's not going to win. He's not probably going to get a top 30 unless half the field wrecks. So, I mean, let's put it into perspective, guys. Humpy won 4 races in a row this year. Okay, winning 4 races in 10 races, not even consecutively, is a feat in itself, and he was able to do it, back to back to back. So, he's had a great season. He's going to have a solid finish in the points, and he's going to have a lot of momentum going into the 2014 DWC season, and he'll definitely be one to watch to contend with Ray and Brian and everybody else going for the championship. So whether he finishes well here tonight, it doesn't really matter, because he knows that he's a good driver, and he knows that he's going to be a contender next year with that team that he's with, because they work very well together, him, Rich, and Chad, and everybody else there. They put good cars under each other every week, and they do a fantastic job getting finishes and results and all that. So, his night isn't going very well, but his teammate says Chad Lawton is stretching his lead out 2.3 seconds ahead of Bias now.
So Mike Conti is saying somewhere near the front of the field. It sounds like almost like a top 5 prediction for Kenny Humpy for this upcoming season for the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. Evan and Brian, I want to get your thoughts on it too. Kenny Humpy very dominant in the second half of this season, and even some of the races that he wrecked out, he was fairly quick when it came to not only hot lapping, but being up front when it counted early in the race. Obviously, when they paid the points late in the race, he wasn't anywhere to be seen in the first few races of this season. But Evan, when you look at that NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship, where do you see him stacking up against a talent like Ray Alfala, Tyler Hudson, this guy beside us, Brian Schoenberg? Where do you see him stacking up in the points picture when it comes to graduating to that series?
Well, for sure, a top 5 is obviously feasible for the 58 team, but he's really going to need to search for the consistency and absolutely dominating this second half of the season with winning 4 races in a row. Remember, up until the point that he won, we had not seen a repeat winner in this series so far. So an amazing feat that he has done. The cards not falling into place tonight. So running 34th. Top 5 is definitely feasible. He just needs to find the consistency. He's had the speed in the cars. You mentioned you just need to come down to when they pay the points, how he plays his cards, and if he can set the thing up and be patient and not try to go for the win. I know that he's got a real strong car. He can get those wins, but you don't want to get over aggressive in those races. You got to take your time, get your points, and if he can keep that 58 card with consistent top 5, top 10 finishes even, he could definitely be up there for that points championship as well.
It'd be hard to top there, what you're saying, Evan, because obviously we know he can drive, we know he can win races, we know he can be absolutely amazing, but the consistency is a whole nother thing, especially in DWC, for instance, as well. So it's hard to say. If everything goes right, he could finish, top 5 in points easily. But something you got to realize too is a lot of crazy things happen in DWC too. So, as they do in any sort of racing. But it's hard to say. It really is. It could go either way with him, but he's definitely got to figure out the consistency thing, because a lot of times, especially in a series like that, consistency can be more important than just being fast.
Yeah, right now, guys, I'm looking at the battle for the 4th position. It's not really a battle yet, but it's definitely getting there. Trey Hudson is falling into the clutches of Alex Warren, and Alex Warren, again, is one of those CBR cars, and they've run very strong tonight, him and Bias. Unfortunately, Duval hasn't been up there, so maybe, you never know, guys. We picked on Duval a little bit tonight, but we all know he's a good driver. We know he can get it done when he's got the car under him. Maybe that 42 is running a little bit something different than his 2 teammates. Maybe something experimental. I know the J-Show cars last year, Brian. You would run something, I would run something, Danny would run something a little bit different. Ray, Tom, and Brad, they'd maybe be on something a little bit different as well. So I don't think we ever really ran the same setup throughout the organization. We didn't really want to do that, because if one car runs bad, then the rest of them do. So you give each driver a little bit of a better chance to succeed if you all run something a little bit different from each other. So, the CBR cars are doing well, and Alex Warren is no different. He definitely is closing in on that 87, and he could use a really good finish to close out the season. Again, Warren was our pro champion a couple years ago, had a rough season in DWC last year, and now is trying to fight to get back in for next year. So a good finish could definitely propel him to a good start for next year.
How about we say we give away that 1/8 scale hood, continuing the legend, Dale Earnhardt? We had a few right answers when it came down to it. Everybody had the right combination, but there was one person that was a little bit quicker on the Twitter than some others were. Brian, what was your best finish in the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship?
Second at this very racetrack, Charlotte, in May of 2011. That's a very long time ago, and the thing that always makes me never forget about that race is it was one of those things where a caution came out during green flag pit stops, kind of like what I was talking about earlier, how that can make or break someone's race, and it was actually going to make my race, because I had a pretty decent car, but I was running around 10th, 11th, 12th most of the race, and a caution came out before I made my final green flag pit stop, and man, if I would have known as the caution came out to floor it and go as fast as I could instead of coasting around, I would have been leader for the final restart of the race, but it turned out instead I coasted around a little bit, and Thomas Hazard ended up being the leader on our final restart, and then I had to try and chase him down for the win and couldn't get it done. So, unfortunately, that's one of those races I'll never forget. It's, a race that got away, but yes, it was at this very racetrack a very long time ago.
And it was Logan Clampett that even got the year at the end of it as well. Second at Charlotte Motor Speedway in 2011. That's going to pick up that prize. We'll get Laura to follow you. We'll exchange some DMs in between there, and we'll get you your prize out to you. So congratulations to Logan Clampett. And if you're not following LSRTV already, be sure to do so at LSRTV. So we work lap number 131. Chad Lawton is your leader by 1.7 seconds. And that's the one thing we haven't seen yet. We are over 30 laps to go. We're going to be 36 this time by. And Cody Bias is anywhere from about even with Chad to possibly 2/10 per lap quicker than the 26 car. This time by, Lawton turns in a 28.67 to Cody Bias's 28.68. So there's not really a whole lot of a time difference there. But your leader is about to come up on lap traffic. That is the 54 car of Brandon Bowie. Bowie sits in position number 30 right now as he just got passed by the RealLucky.com number 19 of Mitchell Hunt. And just in front of them is the number 30 car of Brian Blackford. And he's sporting the new scheme tonight for STEM Sim X. And you want to check them out at stemsimx.org. Pretty cool little program that they have over there. Teaching children about the physical and virtual motor racing realisms and some science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM, and it's pretty cool. And I know Brian and Mike, actually we'll ask Mike because Mike is still in school. Have you ever had any sort of deal where you could relate? Oh, the 26, the 33 too. That was almost a moment that might have shook his stem. But have you ever had any sort of moment there, Mike, in school where you could be able to get into a program and relate the racing to the your studies?
Not iRacing to school, but currently I'm taking physics in my junior year. And, that's really close between Lawton and Blackford. I think he wants him to get out of the way. But before they wreck here, I'm taking physics, and we do some problems where you have to calculate stuff bouncing off of walls and all that. And that I think of the Kansas race last year where I bounced off the wall pretty good. And I think I can calculate how many newtons the car produced the force when I bounced off the wall at 180 miles an hour. But, what they do down there with Blackford and the STEM program, it's very cool. And I wish my school would do something similar to that. I know I'd have a ball with it. So that's a good program they got going on down there.
And that's STEM Sim X. You want to check them out at stemsimx.org. And I'm sure Laura's getting some pretty cool shots of that number 33 right now. I know Ray Alfala and Brian Blackford, as we mentioned. Lisa Byron Daly's also been working with them as well, driver of the new Intelligence car in the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. As the 33 car goes high, 26 car goes low. And fellas, there's the 157
Tim?
of Andrew Fash, the third. Brian.
I'm uneducated. When Conti was talking about newtons, I was thinking about fig newtons.
Oh, yes. You must be hungry. We haven't had a commercial break yet.
No, not at all.
I was about to say, though, there's that 157 of Andrew Fash the third, and we documented it earlier, Evan. This could be the last time we see him with the black stripe, or this could be the start of something new for the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. We call him the Bubble Boy. We'll see what side of the bubble he's on in about 30 laps. But Andrew Fash III continuing to put up a fight in the 157.
He's doing what he can at this point in the race. He started in 33rd. He's moved up to 29th. He's the first car one lap down at this point in the going. Remember, this time by the stripe, we're going to have exactly 30 laps to go. So it's 30 to go for race leader Chad Lawton. Actually, I think it's 29 because he's a lap ahead of those guys. So 29 to go for Chad Lawton up front. There's still a lot of time that we could squeak a couple cautions in here if something happens. I know that you guys are keeping an eye on the 26 of Lawton. He has some close calls getting around some of the lap traffic. So definitely not out of it for sure is Faye Ash in the 157 machine. However, he just has not had the consistency to this point in this season, and is not going to be able to get what he wants, I'm sure. So he'd rather much be conservative in this race, just cruising around rather than half of the battle for all that it's worth here as the laps continue to wind down, not only in this race but in this pro season as well. So sitting 29th right now. I'm sure he'd like to be higher. He's just trying to hold on and see how those cards fall at the end of the race.
I wish he was a little bit higher too, because he's a super guy and he's been a long time supporter of iRacing in these pro series and DWC and everything else. So definitely hoping he's gonna have a better result tonight. He definitely deserves it.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Fash, I haven't worked with him closely on any teams in my 4 years of being on the service, but I know he's a great guy. He really knows what he's doing with the cars when he puts the time into it. I think lately he's been busy with his real world racing stuff, which is great to see. I think this year, this pro season, he's run the fixed setups throughout with minor adjustments. So he hasn't been extremely fast this year, but when you consider that he's on a setup that's pretty subpar compared to everybody else, it really shows that he's been driving very well just to get himself into a position where he could possibly claim a top 30 spot. So if he does get into DWC next year, and if he is able to qualify for races or get to the last 3 spots that are available to the pro drivers like possibly himself, if he gets in, you can be assured that he won't cause any accidents. He won't race you unfairly. He's a clean racer. He's a fast racer when he's got the car under him. And I really hope that he can pull it off tonight. Maybe have something come up here in the next 25 laps and get himself a spot for next year.
And he just lost 1 spot to Brian Blackford in the 33 and Brandon Bowie in the 54 behind him. But that's Cody Bias looking underneath the 157 of Andrew Fash, the third. Almost a tight situation there for your second place driver as he tries to put the 157 in his rearview mirror. And you best believe that 54 for him, Brandon Bowie, is trying to follow that 27 through when he finds a spot underneath as we work the completion of the 144th lap. We work lap 145 of 167. Another driver I want to mention here as well that started off the season in the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship last season a little bit rough. Keep in mind, we got the 33 of Brian Blackford down. I don't know if he hit the fence or not, but the 33 was down there. No caution, but that was a scary moment for Brian Blackford in the STEM Snow Cone Productions Hammer Down number 33. That was a moment for the 33 car. I was about to say Rob Ackley in the 22 car. I want to focus on him for a few moments here. Didn't qualify for the first few races of that NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship last season because there was 50 entrants. You had to make the show on time. With 40 this year, and with Rob Ackley being up in the top 20, unless something catastrophic happens here, because he is running 12th in this race, he is going to end up in the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship, and he won't have to worry about having the pressure to qualify in each of those races. So there's 20 guys that are going to get in here. There's 20 stories. You have to believe Rob Ackley's is one that he had a tough run to begin last season. He's in this series now, and I'm sure that after this evening at Charlotte, he's going to breathe a little sigh of relief. That is, if he can keep it on the blacktop for the remaining 20 laps of this race, Evan.
Great comeback.
Yeah, for sure. Trying to close this thing out and where he's running right now. Doing a solid job in the 22 machine. And he does stand to maybe pick up another spot. He's not too far back from Ashley Miller in the number 7. That's sitting P11. But again, you talked about that he doesn't want something to go down here in the end. So if he's going to get up to the 7 machine, he's just got to keep his cool and not try to force the issue, especially when you come down in these late laps and you're trying to pick up the spot. You might do things that you wouldn't normally do, and it's a situation like that where you really got to look at the bigger picture and kind of know what's on the line and ask yourself, is that one spot really going to be worth it at that point?
You guys, just to go back to something that happened a couple laps ago, Blackford did hit the wall there pretty hard on the left side, so we'll have to figure out how many newtons were eaten or smashed or destroyed when he hit the wall there. So that kind of hurt that car a little bit. And also one person I want to talk about too, Alex Warren, ever so quietly has moved up into third. A couple laps ago, he's able to get by Brad Mahar, so great end to the season for Alex.
Yeah, speaking of quietly moving up, we haven't talked a lot about this entry tonight, but the number 96 of Rich Doucette started all the way back in 35th with a very slow qualifying time, I think. Done on
Normally he's not
possibly.
quiet, Mike.
No, usually he lets somebody by
that.
or he bounces somebody out of the way, but Rich has done a really good job tonight. He's got all four corners of the car still intact, and he's been really good this year. Had a few problems and whatnot, but he's a good racer too. I like Rich. He's a good friend to the J Show crew. But he's back to 8th now. But he started all the way in 35th, no cautions, drove all the way up, 27 spots. So a great job by the 96 car tonight to get all the way up there. But let's look back a little bit. Let's look at 19th and 20th. Another pair of friends similar to Billy and Dylan. You've got Nicholas Morse and Tyler Laughlin. Nose to tail again. Isn't that funny how that works out?
Yeah, they continue to run nose to tail. They've been there most of the race. The 51 chasing the 9 now, but it looks like the 51 is mounted a charge on the 9 as they go into corner number 1. The 51 doesn't do anything going down into the corner, but it was the mind games that have been played the last little bit, and Tyler Laughlin giving a little bit of a chat message out there to the server. The 4 of Brian Day going to move underneath. Day is a lapped car. He is 5 laps down in 36th place. That's when you look at this series, you usually have some drivers drop off, whether it's attrition or whether it's, I don't want to say just give up, but Brian Day had
caution.
We have a caution on the speedway?
Yes, we do. We're looking for it. Stay tuned, folks.
Road, that may be the 20 or 36. Check that. That's Justin Bolton coming off of pit road, the exit of pit road, and for the first time in over 300 laps in this series, we have a caution. And guys, it's at
wow,
oh boy, all by himself. You don't want to be that guy, but Justin Bolton was just that guy to bring out the first caution in 303 laps.
This changes everything. At a 4, and it looks like he tried to hang on to it, got in the grass, and again, you don't want to be that guy, but this really changes everything, and the whole points, as we thought it was, going to shake out, knowing where everybody else is, that could all change here, and this is going to be a wild finish.
We got some people pitting here, you guys. Got Cody Bias, Alex Warren, Trey Edson, Brad Mahar. Got several people coming down pit road here. This is definitely going to change everything. But real quick, that's a great job to all these drivers to go almost 2 full races without a caution there. We're almost going to make it caution-free here this time. I'm guessing all these guys coming down pit road here, they are going to get Ford tires. I mean, if you come down here, it's got to be worth it at this point. It's obviously only going to be a little... Wow, it's going to be less than 10 laps to go when we restart here. So this is going to be crazy. These guys are going to be about mid-pack. It's, 2
tires
down the way.
So, okay, so we've got the 00, the 87... the 57 and the 3, I believe. I'm going to check that right now.
Yes.
2 tires. So I'm guessing that they feel confident that the tires aren't going to make enough of a difference in the last 10 laps here, and they want the track position. They want to be up front. So in case that there's a caution, which is pretty much inevitable when you get 30 cars all together with less than 10 to go, they want to be up front and they want that clean track. So we'll have to see what happens here, but this is a little bit interesting.
Yeah, because you're going to have about a half dozen cars or so that are going to stay out on this caution, and unfortunately for a guy like, well, I guess Brandon Hoff is going to get the free pass, but unfortunately for guys like Stephen Gilbert, Justin Bolton, Brandon Bowie, Andrew Fayash, Brian Blackford, Kenny Humpy, a part of that mix, they're not going to get the wave around because Chad Lawton's going to stay out on the racetrack and prevent those drivers from getting their one lap back or one of their laps back via the wave around. So it is Chad Lawton leading. Going to be Rich Doucette running in position number 2 as these guys are going to find a spot in the line. Brandon Hawk in 3rd, Charlie Foster and Nick Morse completing your top 5 with, well, look at that, Nick's buddy T-Loff stayed out on the racetrack too, believe it or not, and they are actually going to comprise row number 3 on this restart. Mitchell Hunt going to be in 7th, and then I believe Mike said the first driver on 2 is Brad Mahar, and he is going to start in position number 8. So we have a couple of cars that stayed out there. We have a couple of cars that took 2, and there's going to be some differing strategies here as Brandon Hoff has received the free pass. So we are a lap and a half before we go back to the green flag, and when we go back to the green, Evan, we are going to have 10 laps to decide the winner. We're going to have 10 laps to decide the top 20 in this series, the top 30 in this series. The only guys, as we mentioned, that are safe. Chris Overland is going to be your champion. Kenny Humpy, Landon Harrison, if he can get up on the wheel here, I don't know if there's a mathematical chance he can take second or not, but we know Overland, Humpy, Harrison, Doucette, Schmidt, and Blackford, regardless where they finish this evening, they are locked into the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. Some of those guys have had a night they want to forget. Brian Blackford has fallen a lap down. It looks like they may have just missed the setup here this evening. Kenny Humpy had that pit road issue, and those 2 drivers are locked into the series. So, you can have a bad night once in a while as pace car lights are off. We're getting ready to go back to green next time. But, Evan, this is it's going to come down to the last 10 laps of this race. This one's going to be exciting.
And this could be a situation, again, all too familiar for your current race leader, 26 of Chad Lawton. Again, we've been talking about his struggles at the beginning of the season, getting caught up in some incidents and whatnot, being up there late in the going. Now he finds himself out in front of this. So if he can get a good jump on this restart and take off in the 26 machine and try to stay up in front of anything that would happen, he could be good to go. However, you got to look at the guys behind him. How aggressive is the 96 going to get? How aggressive is the 53 going to get coming down to this checkered flag? And are they a little bit shy of using that bumper, or do we see someone try to move that 26 out of the way, because these cars can get really on edge when they get that contact in the turns?
This is going to be very interesting, to say the least. A couple names I look at here, such as, the buddies Nick Morse and Tyler Laughlin, they've been around, they were around like 19th, 20th-ish there before this caution came out. So it's one of those things right now, if they can get a quick caution here, they could literally just have to run 1 or 2 green flag laps and take a good finish here, and we'll see how it plays. The pace car is off, and Tim, it's all yours.
Green flag is out. The 26 and 96 get a good start. Everybody behind
wheel
has
spin.
to get going. There's a lot of guys spinning the wheels. There's 3 wide behind, 19-3, 00, the 7 in the middle, the 57 of Sturgis is there, the 91 of Josh Berry trying to get everything, and Evan, the big loser out of this, is the 00 of Mahar.
31 is on the apron. That's Sasha Wessler. Chaburko slow on the apron, but they're all pointed the right direction. They were 2 and 3 wide through 1 and 2. A couple cars getting shuffled out of line, but they're pointed the right direction for now. So its eyes are all up front for the battle for the lead. The 26 of Chad Lawton up front, holding on for 1/10 of a second over the 96 of Doucette through 1 and 2. 2 car lengths separating our leaders.
So far, you guys, it looks like this stay-out thing is working pretty good for Morse, Foster, Laughlin. The 00, though, like you're saying, he's the big loser there. He got knocked around like a ping pong ball. Right now, the 3 is all over the 51, though, and so is the 87. They're right there exiting turn 4. The 3 is a lot quicker than the 51. The 51 really didn't want to give him room. He gives them room now. He sees them, and it looks like they're going to be okay. But give that spot to Schmidt, Brendan Schmidt, up to P6 with the 87 in tow.
Yeah, they're on tires back there. 2 tires for the 3 and the 87. No tires in the 51, coupled with a little bit of damage, so he's going to be slower. Another big loser in the restart was the 27. Cody Bice got shuffled out, nailed the wall pretty hard in the front stretch. So, did really well the whole race, led a lot. Caution at the end. He's going to finish outside the top 15. So.
And that's going to be hurtful when it comes to the point standings and possibly making it into either the top 20 or the top 30. Top 2 are gone. It's 53-9, and here comes the 91 of Josh Berry to the inside of the 13 car, side by side, as Foster falls back 1, 2, and maybe 1 more as he falls back into the clutches.
Trouble, turn 4.
We got trouble.
22's around. Big trouble at a turn 4. The caution flag is going to fly, and this could set us up for a 1-lap shootout, as it's close here on time, but the incident going to happen out of turn number 4. The 19 machine of Mitchell Hunt having some trouble after being squeezed between Overland and the 27 machine of Bias. Got sideways, went up the racetrack, hung on to it, and got run over by a side-by-side battle between the 22 and the 89 22 machine, hooking that 19 of Hunt around 22 in front of the racetrack, 82, 50, 17. A whole bunch of cars piled in down the front straightaway, and the yellow's back out.
Boy, couldn't have said it any better myself there, Ed. But Cody Bias, boy, you guys, he went from dominating the race, still running around in the top 5 or so, and now look where he's at. He's in 15th, the car's damaged, and gosh, it just kind of fell apart. That caution a couple laps ago changed everything.
We're going to get Laura to get a on board with the 37 of Stephen Gilbert, because he sped through the wreck and then got the car wound down and tried to weave his way through the cars that were sitting on the front straightaway. After the couple of close calls getting through this, the 157, the 19, he dodges, and then the 30 of Robert Hall, he goes down to the inside of the 30 car. The 30 car gets going again, and I guess Robert Hall didn't see Stephen Gilbert coming, because he's going to spin him around. It's a night gone tougher for Gilbert, as he is the last car scored now 1 lap down. We have about a half dozen cars or so that are 1 lap down. Price, Fayash, Bowie, Bolton, Mustakas, Blackford, and Gilbert, and a few of those were involved in this caution flag. That is going to set us up for what I do believe, guys, might be that 1 lap dash to determine a winner here this evening. Rich Doucette looked like he was keeping pace with his teammate. Whether he has anything for Chad Lawton might be a different story if we go green. Brandon Hawk, Nick Morse, Brandon Schmidt, your top 5. Josh Berry, great race this evening in 6th. Trey Edson in 7th. Charlie Foster, Ashley Miller, and Brad Mahar complete your top 10 right now. And if we do go green, that could change. If we don't go green and everybody has enough fuel to get to the end, which we assume they do, that would be your finishing order. But there's still a lot to decide here.
So again, the 1 lap shootout that this could set us up for, and again, no green white checkers in iRacing. So if that white flag comes out, as long as all the cars make it to the stripe, there's not going to be a caution, and who knows what could happen in that final lap. Again, I kudos to the guys that made it through there, 2, 3, sometimes even 4 wide after that restart initially through turns number 1 and 2. Back there mid-pack again, some guys got knocked around, slow onto the apron. They were shuffling, beating and banging, sliding in front of each other, crossing each other over. They kept pointed the right direction for about 4 laps now. Coming down to this thing, lights still on the pace car. We're at 165 on the board. Next time around, we will take 2 to go. If the lights on the pace car do go off, that's going to be a 1-lap crapshoot to the finish.
And, anything that can happen will happen in that 1-lap shootout. And just to show, that we're not biased or anything, you guys, Dylan Duvall there did a pretty good job of making it through that wreck, almost unscathed. He's got a little bit of right side damage, I think, but, it was pretty bad early in the race as far as how his car was behaving. I mean, he was back to about 28th, 29th. He made it through that wreck, and he's up to 17th, so that's about 10 spots or so, give or take a little bit, better than what he had been doing earlier in the race. So missing that wreck definitely benefited him, and that's a little bit better than how it was looking earlier for the 42.
He's been able to persevere tonight. He didn't have a very good car at the beginning. Probably still doesn't have a very good car right now, but missed the wrecks. We
know how that goes, Mike.
Right. That's the story, especially in a lot of DWC races. Unfortunately, the big thing to do throughout the race is to miss the all the cautions and the wrecks that come one after another, and get to the point where we can finally get spread out and go green. So Duval's done a great job tonight of keeping it straight. He's up to 17th, and we're going to have a 1-lap shootout. So who's to say he can't pick up a few more spots?
Once again, DoubleClutch is the proud presenting sponsor of this evening's racing action. DoubleClutch, win on Monday, DoubleClutch.com. Okay, guys, quickly around the horn before we go green. Who wins this thing?
I'm going to have to say Chad Lawton. He's got to get that restart if he can nail it. I think he's only got 4 corners to nail, and he's got this thing. It all comes down to that restart.
As long as he doesn't have any wheel spin or anything, Lawton's good to go.
Yeah, Lawton, plain and simple. No doubt about it.
So the double clutch number 26 at Chad Lawton. He has to hold off his teammate Rich Doucette if he wants to win this race. Doucette will start in second. Brandon Hawk, Nick Morris, Brandon Schmidt, your top 5. Keep in mind, we talk about the top 20 and top 30. It's all unofficial until it goes through the iRacing officials. Typically, if something happens for a sanction, they're suspended for the next season. But we leave that all up to the iRacing officials to figure out who is going to go where. Watch this battle for the win. We'll see if Chad Lawton can come away with the victory. The first racing Ford Mustang pace car peels off right here. White flag is out and the 26 is gone. White flag flies as Nick Morse tries to find a spot in the line at position number 4. He's got Brandon Schmidt to the inside, side by side as they go into corner number 1 between the 2 teammates. And here comes Barry. Barry in the number 91 underneath the number 9 of Nick Morse. Morse to the outside line will lose a top 5 spot on the last lap of the race, but up in front it's all Chad Lawton in the number 26. The double clutch Chevrolet SS comes up at a corner number 4. He will win the finale. Charlotte Motor Speedway behind them. They are wrecking. Doucette in second. Hawk, Schmidt, and Barry, your top 5. Chris Overland gets through it. He finishes in 12th, and he is your NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series champion for 2013.
Tim, it keeps getting worse back here.
Nobody's slowing down. They're still wrecking.
Out of 4,
they're not done yet.
In turn 1, the 00 of Brad Mahar got turned in 3 and 4, and those were 4 cars, bumper to bumper, and 7 pushed up the slightest bit, the 00 into the wall. Okay, 43, 89, 27, 42 through the grass. A couple of those guys went through the middle. That was about 15, 20 cars piled in there at the end.
What an amazing crash. What an amazing way to end what had been 2 very clean races in a row. Shannon and the boys are looking at a bunch of wrecked cars right now, and Chad Lawton's in victory lane, you guys, ending a crazy up and down season. He's doing donuts for the fans right now. They're cheering, and Lawton wins the race, and Overland, as you know, wins the championship. And they have met each other down here on the front stretch.
I hate to say it. I hate to be the one to bear the bad news, but for all the guys that did not slow down for that wreck, I'm not sure what sanction they're going to be handed after this race, but that would usually result in a 1-lap penalty in a typical DWC race. So if they do make DWC, I would expect some of these guys to maybe have a 1-lap penalty to start at Daytona, which is really going to hurt their season opening chances of winning. But again, I guess they made it that far, so hopefully they can come back when the time comes.
They're hoping that Shannon is tired.
Yeah, and keep in mind with this sim, the white flag is displayed, the caution doesn't come out on that last lap, but that's still no excuse for those guys not to slow down because they are still trying to get to the finish line at that. We are going to take a quick break. We'll set up for the post-race show where we'll talk to your top 5, and I'm sure Chris Overland will pop in as well to talk a little more about his championship. I'm sure he's still been celebrating for the last 7 days or so. So we'll step away. We'll come back. Our coverage is presented by DoubleClutch. WinOnMonday.com. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
We are delighted to announce that the new Red Bull Air Race World Championship will take to the air and will be back in 2014.
There we have it, 2014, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome back to the NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series coverage on LSRTV presented by DoubleClutch. WinOnMonday.com. You want to bookmark that page. Going to be pretty neat stuff going on there in 2014. Your winner is the number 26, sponsored by DoubleClutch. Chad Lawton. Rich Doucette comes home in second. Brandon Hawk, Brandon Schmidt, Josh Berry comes home in position number 5. Nick Morse finishes the race in position number 6. Trey Edson, Charlie Foster, Ashley Miller, and PJ Sturgis. Your top 10 here this evening. Your champion, Chris Overland, comes home in 12th. We're going to talk to your top 5 and your champion a little bit later on, but we will begin with Evan Pasoko down in Victory Lane with the winner of the series finale for the NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series for 2013. It's Chad Lawton.
I think we can all agree that this is a long overdue win for the driver of the 26, Chad Lawton, climbing out of his machine victorious tonight in the Pro Series finale at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And first and foremost, Chad, after coming so close in the earlier beginning of this season and having a car that looked like it can contend for the championship and being taken out by circumstances out of your control late in the going, how good did it mean to finish this off here tonight and get that W?
Oh, it was great. It kind of boosted my confidence. I felt like the last, 3 or 4 weeks I've been not really that fast. Rich and Kenny have been whooping my butt lately, and it was really, really good to finally get a finish, a win after this up and down season that I've had.
And definitely, and with the race going green all the way up until the final 25 laps or so, when you were out there in front and you saw that yellow flag flying the sim, what were you thinking at that point?
Well, I wasn't the happiest guy, but then I realized that we still had about 14 or 10 laps to go, and I started to panic to if I was gonna pit or not. And Rich stayed out, and Mike Skinner, pretty much our crew chief for their entire team that was doing the field mileage and all that for us today. They said stay out, and we stayed out, and it worked out in our favor.
And how important was those restarts? And obviously, I'm assuming that you're thinking staying out was the right call. But how important was that restart, trying to get up away from Doucette back there in second, and not giving him a chance to get to you and just try to set sail and stay in front of anything that might happen?
Well, Rich was my teammate first and foremost, so we already had a good idea to I guess you would say get a jump on the start. Start iRacing allows you to do that. So I made sure to let him know when I was going. That way, anyone behind me wouldn't be able to race me. They'd have to race Rich first. I know it's kind of bad for him, but he still benefited from it. He came from freaking 35th to second. That's crazy.
Definitely a solid performance for sure, but in the end, you're going to get it done. You talked about it being such a confidence booster and moving forward to the NASCAR iRacing World Championships. What kind of momentum does this give you, knowing that you can now finish this thing out and, get the results that you deserve when it's all said and done? What kind of mindset does that put you in moving forward?
I never say momentum is part of a simulation or a game. There really ain't momentum, especially on DWC. It's you're either hit or miss on setup each week, and just because you're good one week doesn't mean you're gonna carry your being good the rest of the weeks. But it's a confident booster knowing that I can still compete, I can still win and run up front and lead laps and race everyone clean. So it's more of a confident booster than anything.
And definitely, we're taking a look at your 26 machine, obviously, right now with DoubleClutch on the hood. Who else that makes it happen? Sponsors, teammates, the mic's all yours.
Definitely got to thank everyone on the team, first and foremost. So Richard, Doucette, Kevin King, who really hasn't done much of anything, but, he's been a little cheerleader on the sidelines. Kenny Humpy, a lot. He's helped these last 4 weeks with setups. He's built some awesome stuff. And Mike Skinner, the crew chief, not many people know about him, but he does some freaking awesome work. He built our qualifying setup today. We may have not been that fast, but we just, I think within the last hour, we just made qualifying attempts. But I want to thank Matthew Meach Racing for coming on board for the Pro Series. Awesome guy. I'm glad we were able to get him on the car. Visit mattmeachracing.com. And most of all, I want to thank my main sponsor, Jennifer and Ed with DoubleClutch. Awesome that they come on board for me, Chris Overland, and Brian Day. They got pretty much their cars won the championship and was able to win the last race of the season. So I appreciate them and everyone here for doing the broadcast week in and week out.
And definitely 10-4. Well, congratulations on the victory, and we look forward to seeing what you can do in that 26.
All right, thank you.
Tim, that'll do it here from Victory Lane. I do believe we're caught up with our second place finisher, driver of the 96, other than Mr. Richard Doucette.
And Rich Doucette had to come through a lot of traffic, as Chad mentioned earlier. Rich coming from 35th all the way up to position number 2. Talk about navigating through all this traffic tonight.
That was a hell of a ride, Tim. I'll tell you, I screwed up in qualifying. It was really bad, and I think I had something for the pole and just lost it. So I decided it was going to be better to start in the back, expecting a few more cautions than we had. It was a tough ride. A lot of people gave room. I stuck my nose in sometimes when there wasn't a lot of room, and we escaped contact, which was good. About 10 laps into the race, I figured out I didn't have my voice chat set up either, so I couldn't say anything. So that was tough from the start. I'm not big on texting during the race. So it was a tough ride. It was probably the most fun I've ever had in the sim. There was 33 good cars I drove past to get up to where I was.
You had that long green flag run of 153 laps. You worked your way up into the top 10, and then when that caution flag comes out, the cautions cycle through, and you and Chad and a couple of others decide not to pit. Talk about that strategy there, and obviously it was a good strategy coming home in second.
At the time, I thought it was good strategy. Once I saw everyone behind me pit for the most part, I was a little nervous. I've come to learn, being, I hate to call myself a veteran, but I've been in the series a couple years now, DWC for one. It seems there's always cautions at the end. Cautions breed cautions, the old cliche. We stayed out there. I thought it was a good move, and I couldn't believe I was in second. I was a little surprised, and luckily for me, Chad was in first, so we could kind of work the restart. We got a great restart that first one, got way out there. And then the second one, we're just holding on and praying, and it worked out.
Now, we don't have the official points in front of us, but it appears that you might be second, third when it comes down to the end of it. When we tally up these points, you came into the night locked in to the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. Now, let's put the Pro Series aside. When you move into that series for next season, what are your goals now? You have about a month or so before we kick off at Daytona.
Well, Tim, just for a little information, I believe the points just updated on the main site, and it looks like I did finish second with the draw. So that's good. But going into DWC, the biggest thing is you got to stay on the track every week. If you're suspended because of incident points, you can't make any points. I made that mistake once this season. And to be honest with you, Chris ran a great season, but I think it might have cost me the championship between that, missing a race and a wreck at Richmond and Daytona. I feel like we might have had a real shot at bringing home the championship. So that hurts. Biggest thing, like I said, just stay on the track. Try to click off top 10. Last season in DWC, I was a little bit of a rookie. Didn't really know my way around. And I think this time I'll just look for top 10s every race. And I think that's the key to being at least in the hunt when we come down to the end of the DWC season.
And as you mentioned, with those points, unofficially, you're going to finish second in the standings, 47 behind Chris Overland and Kenny Humpy, your teammate, 10 points behind you, tied with Landon Harrison. We'll go over the points in just a few moments' time, who's in and who's out of the series. But, Rich, before we let you go, I know you have some great teammates. Chad mentioned it a little bit earlier. Who else would you like to thank? Sponsors on the race car who makes it happen for you?
Well, Tim, you've been on the car all season. You're always a huge supporter of not only me, but the whole iRacing community. From all of us, from Chad, the whole team that I'm on, from everyone, I just want to say thank you to you. I'd also like to mention out there for anyone listening that if you head over to facebook.com/Tim's Corner, I believe, you head over to that page and you give it a like. Once Tim gets up to 1,500 likes, everyone, he's going to give away a $25 gift certificate to iRacing. It might not seem like much, but hey, it gets you a free super late model, maybe Auto Club if you don't have it yet. I mean, I could always use 25 iRacing credits, but I think if I won, people might think it was rigged, Tim. But yeah, head on over to facebook.com/Tim's Corner. Check out timscornermotorsports.ca. I really thank you a lot, Tim, for all your support. Thank the team. We really got to come up with a better team name, but that's it for now. The team, Chad Lawton, Kenny Humpy, Mike Skinner. I'll thank Kevin King, even though he really doesn't deserve it, because, he doesn't do a damn thing. But other than that, it's a good season, and I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out.
Doesn't matter what the team is called. The team won 5 races this season, or half of the NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series events. That's Rich Doucette coming home in position number 2 and position number 2 in the point standings. Brian Schoenberg has caught up with the driver who unofficially finishes 8th in the point standings after this evening's race. It's Brandon Hawk.
Guys, I've caught up with Brandon Hawk down here on pit road, and Brandon, the old hot rod looked pretty good again today. That's at least 2 great top 5 finishes in a row, 3 top 10s if you want to look at it that way. But talk to me about your race. You had to come up through the field there, but it was looking really good.
I really wasn't sure how this race was going to go here going into the last race of the season. I was just hoping to get a top 20, and to get a 3rd place, I really wasn't expecting that, especially coming from 24th in the starting grid. But we kind of missed things in Q. I got to thank Brody Kostecki and Ray for the setup, but the race set by Mitchell Hunt, it was absolutely phenomenal. I think we gambled with raising the splitter up a little bit, but on those long runs, it really paid off, and the car could just center nice, and, I could just eat people up.
You're talking about the car setup and everything there. I was trying to mention this during the broadcast a little bit, but did your car seem to change quite a bit from, say, lap 1 in the run to like lap 20, lap 30 or so? Did the car's handling change quite a bit? Because I know Charlotte especially, on this tire and everything else is kind of notorious for changing a lot, but how did the car change throughout the run?
Coming to race at Charlotte earlier in the practice when we were testing, we were running with something that was dragging a lot more because we found the lower we ran the splitter to the track, the quicker our lap times would be. But fall off definitely, once the weight went to the nose of the car, it definitely made it drag a little bit too much. But yeah, for sure, the car changed a ton over the long run. Even with it raised up a little bit, halfway through the run, you'd start to skip a little bit. So you had to check up a little bit. It was really just about riding the brake properly to get the car to turn and center, and then just getting on the throttle at the right time without using up your right front enough. But coming from beginning of the race to the end, the car was just a completely different animal at the end.
Now, it was definitely an up and down type of season for you, but the good news is it sort of ended on a high. As I made mention to earlier, you were able to get an 8th at Watkins Glen, and then 2 top 5s in a row, a 2nd at New Hampshire, a 3rd here. I gotta apologize to you. I said you started mid-pack sort of at New Hampshire, but you didn't. But talk about how the momentum has swung the right way for you towards the end of this season.
I'm kind of in shock with the way it worked out after how it started. I really didn't know how the season was going to go, so it was a complete mystery. But it actually seemed as the season went on, I started to pick it up more. It's like I got used to the type of style of racing, and then coming towards the end of the season, I just made the right calls, and everything just came together, and, we couldn't ask for anything better than that.
Now, you've been a member of the service, say, 2-3 years, something along the lines of that. What does it mean for you to graduate out of the series pretty easily? All in all, I'd say it's definitely more than a fair season. You had a pretty darn good year. I'm going to warn you that once you make this jump up now, the series itself is quite a bit different, but we're talking right now. It's January 21st as I look at my calendar here. Let's say 3, 4, 5 months along the road here. Where do you see yourself in that DWC series?
I really have no clue, but I would estimate that it would go actually somewhat like this season did. Be really roller coaster type of rhythm to it at the start, and then once I work my way into it, and once I get used to the different style of racing, hopefully I'll start getting more consistent like I did towards the end of this season, and hopefully I'll be able to compete for some top 5s and some wins next year.
Well, you did a very great job, especially, these last 3 or 4 races, Brandon. I hate to put you on the spot, but you kind of alluded to a couple people you're already thinking already. When you said Ray, did you say Ray first off? And if you did, was that the Ray Alfalla? The fans want to know. I've been hearing a little bit of rumblings. They're kind of curious. And not only that, but just tell us who makes it happen for you. Thank your sponsors. Anyone else you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, Ray helped out a ton with the qualifying set. Same with Brody, but just as I mentioned them, I got to thank Brody Kostecki huge. He's been a huge help for the team. Can't say enough for what he does. I got to thank Mitchell Hunt. He's week in week out. He works hard. He builds great setups as it showed tonight. I got to thank Chad Coleman, Malik Ray, Justin Warner, Kevin Burris. Everybody on the team in High Performance Motorsports. Josh Berry. It was just a phenomenal end of the season. I also got to thank my sponsor, RacerBoost.com, for motivating me towards the beginning of the season when I needed to keep pushing on, even though it seemed like DWC seemed impossible from that point. But I just got to thank everybody. It's really a tremendous help of what everyone does when they come in together. You got the spotters who are crunching numbers to tell you if you're going to fuel or not, and just couldn't do it without them.
Well, it sounds like you're lucky enough to have some good people on your team. That must be nice. Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm going to go over to my other teammate, Michael Conti, who's with your 4th place finisher, Brandon Schmidt. I love my team, by the way. Thanks, Brandon. Good job.
Thanks, Brian.
Coming from the guy that doesn't know a fig Newton from a Newton, but anyway, I'll digress. Whoops. Okay. Brandon Schmidt.
It's past your bedtime, young man.
All right, settle down now. Okay, so Brandon Schmidt, a former teammate of mine. I'm going to say that I like him a little bit more than Brian at this point, but we'll go from there. Brandon, you've had a decent season, ups and downs, but you've shown speed. How did tonight go for you?
Qualifying went pretty well. Left a lot on the table for the pole, but race started really well, and I had a brain fart and pitted 2 laps short than what I should have, and had to go in conserve mode from there on out, and had to stay about 3 laps on both stints, and dropped me from running top 2 or top 3, where I could have been running, to outside the top 10 a little bit, and caught that caution. And at first I thought it was going to be bad that we had that yellow, but turned out pretty well, and took 2 tires, and thing was a rocket.
So bring us to when we had that caution, 15 to go. You're in a solid position, going to get a pretty decent finish. Was your decision to make the pit stop more based on wanting to make sure that you could make it on fuel? Did you want the tires? I mean, ultimately staying out was the way to go, but what really influenced your decision to come in?
Well, I think I would have been okay with fuel had I not pitted, but being like 10th place or so, by the time we got caught up, I couldn't really tell how many people stayed out, and I already made it up that almost a full fuel run, and tires are going to be huge over people that didn't have tires, and I was just hoping to stay green, and I think if it would have, could at least got up to 3rd, maybe even went for the win there had we went green to the end there.
All right, so you've made it through the 2013 pro season, off to DWC next year. What are your goals for next year in DWC? Would you like to win? Well, of course you'd like to win, but do you see winning as a realistic possibility? Points position, where would you like to finish? What are your goals you're going to set for yourself, for next month's, season?
I'm really excited. I think I'm fully capable of finishing top 10 points, and maybe, going for a win, getting a win or so at a couple tracks I really like on the schedule. And this season I'll be a lot more prepared than I was last season, and a whole lot less nervous than I was, and I'm more prepared, and I can't wait to get going.
All right, sounds good. So we know that a lot of people, back you, sponsor-wise, team-wise. They get you to this position where you can contend for wins and make DWC. Give a shout out to those people.
Yeah, Dylan Schmidt of Unique Signs and Design, and GunnerForSR.com. That's my sponsors. And tonight was the last race with Unique as a primary sponsor on the car, so it's been great having them on the car. At least we got them a win last season in the Pro Series. But Last Row Motorsports as a whole, Joey Brown and Nick Moores, Chris Overland. Congrats to him, by the way, on the championship, and tough luck for the other guys that just missed it. But it's an honor to be on the team, and we bust our butts week in and week out to get these kind of finishes, and just glad that we had a teammate that was able to get the championship.
Hi everybody, that is Brandon Schmidt, your 4th place finisher tonight, fully prepared to run very well next year in DWC. We thank him for his time. Now down to Evan Pisoko with Josh Berry.
And that's right, Josh Berry down here on the pit lane alongside his number 91 machine. And Josh, a good way to close out the season with a top 5 finish and yourself easily being inside the top 20. So moving over to the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championships. First of all, what's your take on how your season was here in this pro campaign with the 13-14 season as a whole?
I felt like everything went pretty well. I was in iRacing jail for a couple weeks, and I finally passed go and got out of that this week, so I was able to run. And really, every week I felt like I've been pretty competitive, and that was nice. I mean, every week I've had fast cars, and tonight was a good run for us. Really, I'm just glad to make it in. I was pretty nervous there at the beginning, trying to let things get sorted out, and I was really hoping it would just stay green the whole run, because I think I would have ended up a little bit better than 5th or 6th where I was running. But overall, I'm pleased with it, and the restart there at the end got kind of hairy, but just had to drive through it and do the best I could, and luckily it worked out for me.
You definitely on that final lap, you weighed one more pass for position. You got around the 9 machine of Nick Morse to get into the top 5. Explain how the race went. Obviously, we saw an extremely long green flag run all the way down to the final 15 laps, and then 2 quick cautions, and to cap it off, a 1-lap shootout. What kind of mental transition do you have to make going from, just logging laps under the green flag to setting yourself up, knowing that you could end up in a wall here when these guys are going to be going for it in those closing laps?
Well, really, it's tough to make that decision at the end of these races, because you never know how they're going to shake out. And really, I didn't know what was the right call there. I knew some people would stay out, and I knew there was people that were going to try to make the top 20 that were going to be throwing Hail Marys and staying out or taking 2 tires. And I just went with my gut, which was take 4 tires, because I knew I had a pretty good car. And if we got a couple laps, I'd be able to get by some of them, and luckily we had a couple of green flag laps there, so it worked out for me, and we were able to get some positions to get back up there. But really, there at that last restart, and in the situation that I was in, I was just trying to avoid any trouble and bring home a top 15.
Definitely, for sure. And now looking forward to the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. Obviously, you mentioned that you weren't able to come to a couple of the races, and being able to come back tonight and get that top 5 finish. And you said knowing that you can get those finishes. What are your personal expectations moving forward for that series? And what's the key going to be to see that 91 up there in those points when it comes down to it?
Really, just staying out of trouble at the beginning is one of the biggest keys to that series. And I don't know, I just enjoy doing this stuff and enjoy being a part of the DWC, and I'm glad to make it another year. I think I'm one of the only guys that's made it every season. So, it's fun to do that, and it's fun to be a part of the series. I can't say that I think I'm a favorite for it or anything like that. If I just made it in again, I would be happy. But it should be fun. It should be interesting bringing in the new people, and hopefully it works out for everyone.
Definitely. Well, who makes it happen? Sponsors, teammates, the mic's all yours. Who gets that 91 car to the track?
Yeah, really, most of the credit really goes to Ray Alfala. He made a heck of a qualifying setup for us, and I would have liked it to have been a little bit better than 15th, but it was not bad. But that really got me up front, and then Brody Kostecki did the rest and made a good setup for us to drive through the field like that, and it was really a great race, and I'm just really want to thank my teammates Mitchell Hunt and Brandon Hawk for all their work that they done. Like I said, I've been on the sidelines the past couple weeks. I haven't been able to really help them that much, but I'm glad that all 3 of us made it into the DWC, and I look forward to doing it again next season.
And definitely, well, congratulations on the top 5 finish to close things out, and a good job overall to see that 91 machine doing good when you were out there on the racetrack, and good luck moving forward here.
Thank you.
Now we're going to go down to Tim Terry, and he is with Chris Overland.
Before we get to Chris Overland, want to go through these drivers that are locked in at this point unofficially until the iRacing officials, if they do have any penalties or whatever the case may be, go through that in the coming days. Chris Overland wins the championship by 47 points with the drop over Rich Doucette unofficially. Kenny Humpy, Landon Harrison, Brandon Schmidt, Chad Lawton, PJ Sturgis, Brandon Hawk, Brian Blackford, Alex Warren, top 10. Brad Mahar, Robert Hall, Josh Berry 13th, Kwame Ajay 14th, Mitchell Hunt 15th. Justin Trombley, great run for him. Trey Edson moves into the top 20 this evening. He locks in. Rob Ackley, Brennan Hoff, and Brandon Bowie, top 20. 21st through 30th. Justin Bolton misses the mark by 11 points. He'll be in 21st. Brian Day falls out of the top 20. He's 22nd. Dylan Duval, 23rd. Cody Bias, after having such a promising night, is going to come home in 24th, with Stephen Gilbert in 25th. Alex Scribner, Brandon Chaburko, T. Loff, Ashley Miller, and Andrew Fayash III getting in by 2 points over Nick Morse, 3 points over Tom Mustakas and Derek Crone, 4 points over Sasha Wessler, 6 over John Adams, and 7 over Billy Price and Shane Miller. So it comes down to the final couple of points for those top 30 spots. But one driver that did not have to sweat whatsoever this evening was Chris Overland. And Chris, we talked about it at the start of the race, coming away with a mid-pack starting spot. And you really didn't have to prove anything this evening. It looked like you had a little bit of fun out there.
Every time you get on a racetrack, you're going to try to get everything you can, and I had been playing this season so conservative and ended up with good finishes, and this week I just went for it, and this is the result you get, apparently. I got some damage early on in the race that just killed the car. I was driving up through the field. I think I passed 5 or 6 cars the first 5 laps, and I hit the wall, and it destroyed our long run speed, so getting those short runs at the end definitely helped, but no, I wasn't really having I wasn't really thinking about having fun and stuff like that, but it was fun. I did enjoy the race, especially towards the end there. I think Brad Mahar got hooked right into me, and I had to drift the car across the line.
And coming home with the 12th place finish at the end of this, looking back on this championship season, we talked about guys like Kenny Humpy coming home with 4 wins, guys that were running up front at the start of the season, Chad Lawton among them, and it seemed like through all those guys that really, I don't want to say hot dog or hot lapped it per se, you kept consistent, and you were consistently there at the end of the races, within the top 5, within the top 10 at the end of the events. You looking back on the season, obviously a championship season, is there anything that you'd like to have back, maybe a finish or two that you wanted to improve on?
Yeah, the Daytona finish was definitely one of them that I was disappointed about, and I want to get this out in the air now. I owe Shannon Whitmore, the official of this series, a very, very big thank you, because my words following that Daytona race in an email towards him was definitely not good. And he sat down and he told me, listen, you got to focus on driving. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing. And when an iRacing official tells you to calm it down, I think that you need to notice that something's not right. So the next week I got it in my head that I was going to take it easy, and we ended up winning. So first off, big thanks to Shannon Whitmore for all that he's done for the series.
And now looking forward, you head into the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. You've been there before, but with this run in this NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series, is there anything that you've learned here that you can transfer over to that series, or maybe something you would do different in your second run upcoming compared to the first run?
Well, just try to minimize damage. I think that's been the story of everybody's season, and I think I'm the one person out of everybody who hasn't had a knockout punch of a race. I've completed every single lap, and I think that's what did it. It's just about finishing races, and I definitely didn't do that in the World Championship Series. So if I just finish where the car is capable of finishing, I think we got a good shot at top 10, top 15 points, maybe even better, because I know at the beginning of this season I didn't even expect to contend for the championship. I told Will Vincent in an interview, 1 top 5, and we came home with 3. So, I mean, you can't really tell what's going to happen, but I'm just going to do my best like I try to every time I'm on the track, and hopefully we'll come out with another good result.
You mentioned top 10, top 15, and really not really setting a whole lot of a goal, but I'm going to put you on the spot, because there's been guys like Alex Warren and the 26 car Chad Lawton come through that Pro Series and have, I don't want to call it maybe a championship hangover per se, and not perform the way they wanted to when they hit that NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. What would you be happy with points at the end of the day when we hit 17 races in this 2014 season?
I'd be happy with an off season as long as I can get myself solidified in the top 20 and be able to have a break here, because I've got 1 month until DWC starts, possibly less. But as long as I'm back for 2015, I'll have a lot of fun, and I know my sponsors in DoubleClutch with Eddie and Jen Walzik, they would love to have me for 2015. They're a great group of people. So just as long as I'm still hanging out, because I love sim racing and I love it at the professional level, and the competitors and the competition that's involved in this World Championship Series is what keeps me coming back. So definitely just want to be a part of it for years to come.
You mentioned DoubleClutch. Anybody else that's on these race cars, or anybody you want to say hello to? I know the team at LRM's been celebrating for a week, and I'm sure they're going to be celebrating for the next month or so before we go racing in the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. Who makes it happen for the 4017?
Yeah, I want to give a big shout out to Nick Morris. He's up there in the lobby. I don't know if you guys are going to pull him down. He's the one who recruited me onto Last Row Motorsports, and he ended up missing DWC by 2 points tonight with his awesome 6th place finish, and that bums me out. Kind of a bittersweet night in that regard, but just big thanks to him and Joey Brown and all the people at Last Row Motorsports. Grove Distributors, I know I totally botched that, but them and Sim Racers Garage, Menards, everybody who's been a sponsor on this 47 car, hopefully we'll be coming back for DWC, and we'll be able to keep showing off this sexy bright yellow paint scheme. So just everybody who's on the car.
And that's your 2013 NASCAR iRacing.com Pro Series champion, Chris Overland. And before we close off the show, Brian Schoenberg has made his way down to the 9 car.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we pass Michael Conti's bedtime, I have caught up with all people, Nick Morris, who finished P6 in this race. But Nick, you had one heck of a race. You started on the pole. The car may not have been quite right the first run of the race. Possibly. I don't know. I wasn't driving the car. Had a little bit of an issue there entering pit road, but you played the pit strategy right, and you were able to come home with a solid finish, a great recovery. Talk to me about that heck of a race.
Yeah, I definitely got to thank the guys at LRM for the qual setup. A focus of mine this year was to, at least for Charlotte, was to get better at qualifying. I didn't focus on qualifying all year, and it really burned me. So I was like, I'm going to go out there and get the pole at Charlotte. I know I'm good, getting used to this wheel, and want to go out and do that. First run, I thought the car was great. I think I was just so amped up that I got the pole that I just ran the right front off, and then it was tight, loose. So I figured I'd just have some fun and race some guys, and then once I saw the lead pack disconnected from the second pack, I just rode behind. I think it was Brad there, I think. And then getting into pits, great entry. I killed it, and I was down to, I think, 55, and I shifted into first, and it turned left. I didn't know I had the brakes locked up, and lucky for me, I hit the front nose, and right when I did the 180, I actually went into a hole in the wall, and I didn't get too bad of rear damage. So I just put it in first, kept going. And I only lost like 5 or 6 spots from it. Was able to kind of maintain. The car was extremely loose after that. So I just drove it as hard as I could, and figured, I didn't think I had a chance to make a DWC after possibly the worst season ever. So I just figured I'd stay out and go for the win, and I'm happy with 6 for sure.
Now, I said this actually on the broadcast after everything kind of went down on pit road. I was like, wow, he's only 13th or 14th at that time. I was like, he really did not lose that much time. I'm sorry, Tim Terry's talking in my ear and making all sorts of noises as well. But you said, honestly, it was the worst season ever. You didn't think you had a chance at making DWC from there. Unofficially, they were saying that Andrew Fayash may have got you by 2 points, but then again, that's unofficial. We don't know what drops and everything else. But it seems like you're the type of team player where you're going to be in it with those guys, helping them no matter if you're in it, if you're not. But real quick, talk about the addition of Chris Overland to your team and how you guys have been able to kind of work with him and get him to be a champion of this series.
Joey Brown deserves most of the credit. I recruited Chris. Everyone knew who he was. It's not like it was his first time in DWC, but I had ACL surgery and kind of doing my own setups at the time because Joey was kind of taking a mini break because DWC was in a pause. So I built my own setup for Pocono. I thought it was freaking quick. I was running like 6 in the strength of field race, but I was so out of it from being a couple days off my surgery that I asked Chris to run it for me, and Chris took it and I think won or finished second. And I was like, we got to bring this guy over. So we had him help us at Watkins Glen, and he went out there and ran second again to a pretty good road racer. And I was like, we got to add him. So he came on the team, and he put in the work. He put in a ton of laps. Joey worked with him a ton to kind of take him under his wing. And it's really cool to see how far Chris has come. Obviously LRM puts together great setups, but he put in a ton of work. So I'm really happy about that. I'll be fully supportive of the team next year. If I get 30th, great. I'm not that great of a qualifier, so it's still going to be tough to get in. If not, I'm actually looking forward to the Road to Pro next year. I need as much laps as I can with this new wheel and pedal set. I think it's going to pay dividends, and next year when I get back into Pro, I'll be ready for it. I won't get in 5 wrecks this year.
Well, regardless of how it turns out, I will say that was a hell of a race and a hell of a comeback that you had, so you did a really great job there. You obviously said quite a bit about the team, but real quick before we go off the air here, Michael's really needing to get to bed now. I think it's a school night, but just talk to me about your sponsors, everybody that makes it happen at your team, and thanks for sticking around for an interview with us.
Yeah, thank you guys for interviewing me. It definitely stinks not making the top 30, but I got to thank Madwire Media. They took a big leap. This is their first foray into sim racing or any form of advertising that's not inbound, and I did not do a good enough job for them this year, but they renewed with me for all of next year. They're real happy with the return on investment they've seen, and I got to thank them. I also have to thank newcarinventory.com. Even though they left me this year because we really didn't perform, I got to thank them for at least being with me this season, and hopefully I can get them back in a couple of years. And everyone at LRM, we have a lot of teammates over there, a lot of the guys that do the heavy lifting, and it's really just a great group of guys, great team. We have a lot of great partners and companies that are behind us for multi-year commitments, and I'm just really happy where I'm at right now and looking forward to it next year.
That's Nick Morsi, guys. Thanks again, Nick. And I think we're going to send it now over to Laura. She's around somewhere, isn't she?
No, Laura's lost her voice. I think that's what that is. We're going to go final thoughts with Evan Basoko on this season. What an incredible season this has been. Laura's in our ear saying something. I don't know what she's saying. Something about she needs a beer. But Evan, what a great season you had.
Oh, no, for sure. We got to see some great racing. It was a little bit rocky at the start. I'm just happy to be a part of it, be able to get on with you guys and do these races and be able to check out these guys and see the kind of talent that I have in here and just be a part of the whole deal. It was a cool experience, and again, got to see great racing. It made our job a lot easier, and a good championship battle, and they were going at it bumper to bumper for each position up until the final checkered flag of the season, so it was good.
Brian, we got to keep this short because Mike has a bedtime, and I know he's half asleep over there, but final thoughts on the race. Glad to have you here. It was an absolute blast.
I had a blast with you guys too. We had a lot of fun during the race, and it got even funnier over these last 20 or 30 minutes, to say the least, as well. Real quick, obviously, congratulations to Chris on the championship, Chad Lawton for winning the race, and also I want to give a shout out to Trey Edson. He's an old buddy of mine. He actually gave me one of my first chances of driving a car in any sort of formal league racing environment anywhere. This is probably a good 8-9 years ago now, and it looks like he's in DWC now, so congratulations to you, Trey, if you're still around somewhere, and I'm sure he is. Anyway, though, Mike?
Oh, well, I don't really know what to say now.
Thoughts on the season?
It was a good one. Good racing, a lot of green flag racing toward the end, and we had a couple large wrecks to end the year, but that's okay. I enjoyed the crashes. They were superb as always on the iRacing.com motorsport simulation service. And I'm not sure if you can get 3 months for the price of one anymore, but I figured I'd mention that anyway. So I've enjoyed being here tonight. Thank you, Laura, for giving me the opportunity to grunt and yell once again. And I look forward to watching DWC next year as a spectator.
And Shannon is asleep, Nim is nowhere to be found, and Laura's completely lost it. So, Tim?
Yeah, I guess we're all out of the loop. But, Mike said 3 for 1. You can go to facebook.com/Tim's Corner, like that on Facebook, and you could win a $25 iRacing gift card. The super late model is coming out next week, so you want to grab that. Once again, congratulations to Chris Overland. Congratulations to Chad Lawton on the win. And we will start off the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship season on February 25th at the Daytona International Speedway. 100 laps to run in the season opener. It'll be on PSR-TV, the Motor Racing Network, Nesson, iRacing Brazil. There's a bunch of other partners there as well. You can check it out at wcs.iracing.com. That's wcs.iracing.com for all the information on the NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. Congratulations to all the transferees. Thanks to everybody who tuned in. It's made a very incredible season for us. And, of course, DoubleClutch. WinOnMonday.com is the place to go for all the upcoming information on the 2014 season. They got some pretty cool stuff over there as well. That's going to do it for us here this evening on LSRTV. So for Evan Pasoko, Mike Conti, Brian Schoenberg, Laura Lawson, who's drunk somewhere probably. I'm pretty sure that's what she's doing right now. My name is Tim Terry, saying we'll see you on February 25th. And we say, let's go racing. From the Daytona International Speedway, keep the hammer down, and we'll see you at the track.